Good morning, everybody. You are tuned to Computers 2K Now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Edmund, your host for the next few hours, along with Mike.
Hello.
And Nick is here.
Oh, hello.
Hello. And Steve is here with us, all the way from across the pond.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Hello.
Our number is 919-518-9773, Computers 2K Voice on Skype. And today's show is being brought to you by thatvidblasterguy.com, Tom Sinclair, and by Adamus.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters for professionals.
Like me.
Like you. Absolutely like you.
Like me.
Yes, sir.
Professionals and everything.
El
So what's going on, Amnon?
Nothing is going on. Everything is fine. I can't complain. I didn't sleep very good last night. The dog threw up and had to get up.
Well, there you are.
But she looks fine now. So if I nod off and fall asleep in the middle of the show, just yell in my ear.
Will do. Will do.
Thank
All
you
right.
for giving me permission.
So, that last week, I guess, Andrew informed us that they raised his speeds.
Yes, 150 by 150.
Yeah, well, they are boosting the upload speeds of nearly all of their files connections to match the download speeds.
Yes, symmetrical.
Amazing. You think, okay, why are they doing it? They can. I can see one reason for doing it just like that is, okay, we're planning to sell, and we want more people to subscribe, so let's do it because it's not going to be a long-term thing. I mean, Verizon or anybody else does not give. I mean, their bandwidth is not free, and to suddenly do this, it's got to make you think. I mean,
I don't know, Amnon. I disagree with you on this one.
okay, let's hear.
I think this is just. It doesn't cost them. They don't have to. You're not going to use the bandwidth. Andrew's not going to be using 125 megabits symmetrical.
That's true too.
So somebody that's got, I don't even know what their tier plan is. Let's say 20 down, 30 down. So maybe 30 down, 30 up is their baseline plan. They can give you the bandwidth. Nobody's going to use it, and then that's another big selling point for them.
But there is a networking question in that. Does it? Obviously, I think they have to have new equipment, which some of our network guys show up. We may be a little early on this discussion, but my question would be whether it really does cost them anything to configure their system for symmetrical instead of asymmetrical, like all these connections we have. I don't know the answer to that question, but I agree with Nick. Just because he can now go 150 up doesn't mean that he's going to be using 150 up except on bursts.
This is sort of like the old way of doing lifetime warranty on tools, on hand tools. They were saying, yeah, for your life, because they know that you bought something that cost $7-8, you will probably not send it back for a replacement. So why not
Well,
say?
Actually, there's more to it than that, Amnon. When that all started, and this is an aside, but it's an interesting topic. When that started, tools would actually last for a lifetime, so they really weren't giving you anything. And as they became cheaper and cheaper and not lasting a lifetime, the price kept going up, so they charged you for two at one time with the hope that by the time it went bad and you replaced it, you'd forget where you got it or throw it away or not bother with it.
Yeah, I mean, it was always when I was in my other life, when I was a mechanic, most of the tools were, I forgot even the names, from the professionals, Snap-on and things like that. But I had a lot of tools from Kmart that you use every once in a blue moon. And these things worked, but when they broke, I mean, it was $2.
Yeah.
So,
Not worth the
God,
gas to go get them. It's going to be interesting to see how these the symmetrical connections actually pan out, to see if it really changes anything. Because it's like John says, that a user doesn't have to do anything to take advantage of the speed, because
Right.
if you're going to do an online backup or a transfer, it's going to run wide open. But it's going to run wide open for a shorter period of time than it runs wide open at a lower speed.
So Donovan just said that that it doesn't require any additional hardware to do what they did because it's fiber, and that's how I've always understood it. I think if Time Warner was to do the same thing, I don't think they would have to have any equipment either. From how it was explained to me, they just throttle it because they don't think people use it.
But look at what he just wrote. He said the reason you don't see symmetrical speeds on cable broadband is because the technology wasn't designed for it. With fiber, it's basically Ethernet. The limited upstream is an artificial constraint.
Okay,
Well,
so then I guess it was explained to me wrong.
Well, now this is fiber versus cable, and so I see what he's saying, but I guess. Well, I don't know. One of the limitations that was imposed in the early days is that the internet companies did not want you operating a server from home. And that was their excuse for not giving you much upload. Why do you need upload? You don't need much upload. Unless you're going to run a server, you don't need much upload.
I think it's still not. I think it's still. They still don't want you to do it.
Yeah, but that's their excuse. Now it's not a valid excuse.
Even with Andrew having 150, he'd be insane to run a server on it. Because
Sure.
I mean, if he had very much traffic on that server on his, he could eat up his 150 in a heartbeat.
Yeah. But I wish we had files.
Hey,
here.
Amnon?
Yes, sir.
I just got a private message from somebody saying that the audio is distorted on everybody besides you.
Really?
Yeah, that's going to be the Hangout thing. Check to make sure nothing's red lining or yellow lining there, and
Keep talking.
we will.
I lowered the gain on the PC because that's the only way I can control the audio coming from the Hangout, because it's on the same. It's the PC itself. So I'm wondering if it's any better now. Nick, would you ask?
Will he's listening. We got the same message.
Okay.
So anyway, Dan says he has 50 megabits and loves it. Is that up and down, or is that just down? Because if it's here, you get 50 down, but it's 5 up.
Hey, Donovan, are you free to call in this morning? If you are,
He might be shy.
yeah. If you're free to call in, that would be good. We'd like to talk to you.
And while you're
not,
waiting
not
for
a
him
problem.
to answer, hey, Mike,
Yep.
is it better for me to lower the gain or to lower the aux end?
Well, it wouldn't, the aux send would have absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Okay.
If Nick and I are distorted and Steve, it's because the Google Hangout, the speaker output from the Google Hangout is either overdriving the mixer or the Hangout's not working well. Then again, now that's a good point. Steve's on Skype, so Steve, talk to us a little bit and let's see if your audio is distorted.
Okay, I'll talk to you a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So well, let us know on that one, Andrew. Andrew's the one monitoring it. Of course, he's
see,
OCD on this stuff.
When you're talking, Mike, it goes halfway up the yellows.
Well, yeah, it's too far.
That's
Yeah,
way
I know.
too high. Well,
But-
turn the pot down.
Yeah, so Andrew just said Steve is fine.
Okay, so it's the Google Plus computer.
Okay, well, I lowered it now. It's just touching the yellow when you talk.
Correct.
So let's hear.
Yep, correct.
So Dan is saying that he's got 5 megabits up, but I could use more for uploading raw photo files. Yeah, I have 5 up as well, and when I do my weekly show, I do Daily Motion in HD at, I want to say, 1.5 megabits, and then I do Twitch TV at 1 megabit, and with Skype, I'm pretty much capped at what I can do. So I would say even 10 megabits for me, I think would be the max that I'd need.
For how long?
For the foreseeable future, for what I'm currently doing. I mean, I'm not gonna be going to 60 CDNs because I don't believe there's any benefit in doing that. But 10 or 15 megabits, I think would be sufficient for what I'm doing.
But for how long? I mean, I remember when we got 5 megabits, we said we'd never need more than that.
Well, I really don't need more than 5 megabits, but it would be nice to have that overhead. But with how weird Skype is with having sufficient bandwidth, look, Andrew just said 25 megabits is more than enough for streaming for us. He's doing 4 CDNs all in HD plus
Right.
Skype's on a different line. So no, I think 10 or 15 megabits is more than enough.
For 4K?
Well, that would be uploading. I'm not sure what the upload on a 4K file is.
Yep. So, well, the good news is it really doesn't matter what we want or need. They're going to give us what they want us to have.
Yes, just like always.
And as long as it's high speed, it's fine.
Well, yes.
Define high speed.
As long as it's solid.
Yeah.
The discussion that Andrew and I had on the IAIB Spotlight with people talking about Skype issues. Oh, Skype this, Skype that. And what they often don't realize is that they might have a 1.5 megabit upload, but if all they have done in the past is email, web surfing, they'd get a little hiccup in their web surfing. They click on a web page, Amazon.com. It takes 2 seconds to open instead of 1 second to open. Don't think anything about it. That's no big deal. But in the background, what may be going on is that there's actually some packet loss or some inconsistency in the bandwidth that's not apparent to them. They don't see it. The same with email. They send an email, it sits in the outbox for 4 seconds instead of for 2 seconds. They don't notice that. But when you start using it for Skype or some other wide bandwidth purpose, now this packet loss shows up as glitches in the audio, glitches in the video, things of that nature. And people say, wow, Skype is really bad. It's bad stuff because, look, it's not consistent. When in fact, it may be your internet. The reason I harp on that is because that is exactly what happened to me, as I've talked about many times here before. And what happened was I had the guys come out and literally 10 times, and on the 10th time they got tired of me. So they brought out a time domain reflectometer. They started sweeping my cable starting at the street to the house. They found a broken or bent, crimped part of the coaxial cable where it comes up out of the ground, turns to go into the house. They cut the cable, put a junction box there, and since then the problem has gone away. Of course, it created havoc on my DVR as well, which also brings up a point in that if you are having to periodically reset your DVR, if sometimes you turn it on and things didn't record, or if you're having issues with your DVR, the Time Warner DVRs are pure garbage, and the firmware is even worse. But
you don't like your Cisco firmware that's on your Time Warner DVR?
No,
it's
do not.
excellent.
Yes, and you're an expert on that.
I am.
And so all I'm saying is that inconsistent internet service to your, or cable service to your DVR can cause havoc that does not appear, it's not easily to diagnose.
Well, but it's nice to say I've got 150. Right?
It would be nice to say I had 6.
Hey,
What
you
about
know, the
1 gigabit?
credit limit on my credit card is 100,000. So does that mean that I use 100,000? That I charge that much? Nah.
That's what I do.
Nick does.
Nah.
That's exactly what I do.
He gets one credit card, borrows against it to put it on another one.
That's the way of the world.
When he's done with that, if he has any left, he gets a cash advance and putting it in his savings account, and that way he's rich.
I've learned from the best.
There you go.
There you go.
So Merle's saying that's the only reason I have Uverse. Oh yeah, I was talking to Merle the other night, and he's got Uverse in his area, which isn't Uverse fiber?
No.
I thought Uverse was
It's
fiber to the node.
It's not fiber to the house. It's fiber to the.
Fiber to the node.
Yeah.
Well, but some cable is fiber to the node.
Right. Most
all
of it.
of
No,
you-
all
all-
of it. All of it. I don't think there's any cable service that to the node is actually just cable. Because they were running Time Warner.
I know my Time Warner is not fiber to the node. I know that for a fact.
Well, but that's because they haven't built out your system since fiber became viable. Because my understanding, and if Donovan were here, we could ask, but my understanding is that if they have to upgrade, replace, or expand a cable system now, they're doing it with fiber. So because it's cheaper and has more expandability, they're not putting as much coax in the ground as they used to. Now, that could be wrong, but to me, that would be logical.
Yeah. So, for example, mine is not, because every time the Time Warner guy comes out here, I have a conversation with them, and mine is not fiber to the node. It's I don't know what it is, but the guy tells me it is not fiber. So Merle's got fiber to the node.
to the curb. Yeah, what he's saying.
to the curb.
Yeah.
So, but either way, he said he's only got like 2 megabits up, and that's the
Well-
most he can get from Uverse, and I find that insane.
It is insane. And
Oh, what do you
and
mean it's insane?
Well-
That's a gracious plenty for 90% of the population.
oh yeah. Yeah.
But it's funny because he's also in a Comcast area, and our friend Sean Callahan, he's got Comcast, and they offer a 10 megabit upload package that is cheaper than the Time Warner 30 by 5 package. So I don't know, but I don't understand how the most he can get in his area with Uverse is it's like 2.5 megabits up. That is insane.
Oh, Nick.
When they put Uverse in our area, we talked about it already. The box, the curb, the structure that everybody connects to is right across the street. I mean, it's not even 100 feet. And while they were putting it, I was, you didn't know who put it there. And I went and I talked to the people and say, yeah, that's AT&T Uverse. I said, oh, good, finally. He said, oh, you live in that house? I said, yeah. I said, oh, but man, you're going to be able to get 30 or 40. Well, at this point, there is no 45 in our area.
Is that 45 up or down?
Down.
Okay.
And the most that I could get, it's, let me add Donovan here.
Hello.
Hello. And the most that I could get people to tell me that I can get it, because I never really subscribed to it, is anywhere between 3 and 6.
Isn't that insane? Why would they roll out
I
a
know.
service and not make it available to
I have
people at
no
a decent
idea.
speed? This seems like such a waste of money.
Yeah, I know.
You roll out a service and you're like, oh, well, the competition is destroying us on speeds, but switch to us. It's okay.
Hey, Donovan.
How you guys doing this morning?
All right, how are you?
Oh, just busy. Typical Sunday, having to wash clothes.
Well, straighten us out on all these questions we are struggling with regard to internet.
All right, well, specifically, what do you want to know? I mean, I can
You
pretty
tell us
much answer
UVerse.
anything.
What technology is UVerse?
As far as I know, and I could be wrong on UVerse, but it's a typical IPTV implementation. That's what my understanding was, which is basically like VDSL. The modems can do 24 megabit typically. Now, that's what it was when it first started out. They could have upgraded and at least are doing fiber to the curb, which even if they're using VDSL technology, they could still be doing fiber to the curb, or they'll at least be doing fiber to what they call the DSLAM, which is pretty much the way DSL works today anyway. And you guys are right when it comes to typical cable systems. What they call the hybrid fiber coax system is fiber goes to a node, and a node typically services a neighborhood, and a neighborhood can be anywhere from 300 to 500 homes passed. And from that node, everything is coax. And but then, fiber to the home is fiber to the home. When we implemented fiber to the home, when we first built our system here, it was a typical HFC, because you have to understand it was built in 1998. But in 2006, I implemented passive optical networking, which is essentially fiber to the home. The fiber comes right up to the side of the house, and we actually go into what we called a mini node. You may have heard the term RFOG, also bandied about. There's a couple of different implementations. That right there is basically just moving the RF translation closer to the house, and then you actually have pure fiber to the home, which is the fiber comes into the house, especially for internet. And this is what we did with GPON. The fiber would come straight into the house, go into what looks just like a typical, Ethernet switch, but it had a fiber connector, and then it had standard Ethernet plugs on it, and then it would come out at 100 megabit, or we would control it, meaning, if I sold a 20 by 20, I went into the system and actually said, you're allowed 20 up and 20 down. I could do 20-10. I could do 50-10. It didn't matter, and that's what I meant when I said they're artificially constrained. But
On fiber.
Yeah, on fiber. Yeah, it's all done at the head end. That's the reason why Verizon, it was so easy for them, like what Andrew said, whenever, he answered the survey or the question or whatever, and then he receives an email and it says, hey, it's automatically done. They had an automated system that basically just went in, changed the value in a database, refreshed the profile on their side, which didn't require a reboot or anything, and he was good to go. You can't do that quite as easily on standard cable broadband, because the modem actually pulls down a binary file, and inside that file it says, this is what I'm allowed to pull down, this is what I'm allowed to send up. And by the mere nature of the DOCSIS technology, and you have to understand that DOCSIS came about when most everybody just wanted to consume, and they didn't need to push out. The uploading was really something that was centralized to businesses, because they started running their own email servers and web servers and all this kind of stuff. So, whenever you want to make a change to a customer's speed on a cable modem, you have to basically go in and say, stop downloading this file, download this file, and typically it requires a modem reboot, which can be done remotely. That's the way we did it. But because of the nature of DOCSIS, the upstreams are still limited, and it's just now that we're getting into DOCSIS 3 that you're getting the ability to actually increase the upstream. The upstream is actually capable of about 30 megabit up without channel bonding on a DOCSIS 3 cable modem. But you're not going to find too many cable broadband companies that are going to provide more than, say, maybe 10 on the upstream. And that's typically for business. And it's just due to the technology, because as you to get more bandwidth, you have to use more spectrum on the cable system. And if you look at the fact that in the old analog days, an analog cable channel was 6 megahertz wide. Well, when you do a digital conversion of that, you digitize it basically, that 6 megahertz is the same as, let's say it's QAM 256 converts that to about 38.8 megabit of data transfer. So then you can start seeing that, well, in the original cable broadband days, they had one channel that they sent down to all of the cable modems out in the field. And that's the reason why you only started out with like 1 megabit, 2 megabit, and 3 megabit. Well, you got a 6 megahertz slice of the pie going down. You only have a 1.6 to 3.2 slice of the pie coming back. So that's the reason why there was such a limitation on the upstream. Well, now when you get to DOCSIS 3, they do what's called channel bonding. So they started out bonding 2 downstreams, which doubled your capacity. Then they went to 4. Now they're up to 8. So you can do something like 320 down, and you can bond, I think, up to 4 of the upstreams, and you can get something like 100, 120. I haven't really looked at it lately. But that's your 2 competing products there is DOCSIS 3 and then the technology fiber to the home that Fios is using. And that's the reason why Fios is so much better, because you don't have any RF issues. There's no such thing as noise. I know, Mike, you were talking about you were having some issues and, some potential DVR problems. I mean, noise is a big, big factor in a standard cable system.
Well, it's analog.
Yeah, it's analog, and something as simple as a customer who detaches their coax from their VCR back in the old days and just leaves it hanging and then suddenly starts vacuuming can basically take an entire neighborhood down. And that's
Cool.
actually happened. I mean, I had my tech manager who's like a 35-year veteran in the business, said that it took them 6 months to ever track down because it was sporadic. And then they finally narrowed it down one day just by happenstance.
No kidding.
They went to this one house, and the lady was vacuuming, and they found that not only had they detached it, but they had stripped the connector off and then just stuck the bare cable back into the back of the VCR because they didn't have the tools to put the end back on. So it's
I don't know if you ever ran into this, but when we're near an airport, and whenever I guess the system, they started building up the system here to something usable when they went with so many channels and things many years ago. I've had an unfortunately personal relationship with the cable company since I've been here because of crappy service. But bottom line was they started using AUGAT LRC RG6 connectors because they said they were getting complaints through the FCC that the crappy connectors they were using on the coax was causing the entire system to radiate and interfering with navigation at the airport here in Raleigh. And what they said was that they were given a certain period of time to clear it up, which was not very long. And after that, they said that they had equipment that they had to ride down the street looking for radiation, and they would absolutely shut off a neighborhood until they could find the problem. And it was usually one connector inside somebody's house.
Oh, yeah. We that is very common. Excuse me. We actually had one guy that part of his daily and weekly tasks was to ride in the truck with a leakage meter, and he'd go down each and every street. And as soon as he saw the leakage go above a certain number, then he had to immediately start narrowing that down and get it corrected. Because what will happen is the FCC, they take that very seriously. Not that they take many things very seriously, but they seem to take this very seriously. they will come in and they will shut you down. And for every day that you don't have it fixed, you will get fined. And I know, like I said, my technical manager is an old Time Warner guy. And he was involved in a system where they came in and shut them down, and they fined them like $60,000, and they still had to get it fixed. So yeah, because see, cable systems originally started out using 550 megahertz of spectrum, and then of course as consumers wanted more and more channels, and of course programmers wanted to be able to put more and more channels. I mean, honestly, how many ESPNs do you really need? But
None.
6.
yeah, I agree, none. But they increased it to 750 megahertz, and even when the city of Tifton's system was built, it was built as a 750. Well, new systems were actually being built at 860. So I don't know why they didn't take the leap right then and there. And now it's very common if a new system is even being built, and if they're going to go HFC, which I would highly recommend against, they're doing it up to a gigahertz. So and you got to understand that those frequencies do overlap with a lot of your aeronautical frequencies and stuff like that. So it's very, very critical and a very serious deal if you've got any kind of RF leakage in your system that could endanger the lives of people on airplanes and public safety and all this other stuff.
So Donovan, going back to what you're talking about, the DOCSIS 3, is there a next step for cable providers besides going fiber that's better than DOCSIS 3 and would allow more upload and download?
Well, I have seen where they're trying to do, I don't know if they're going to call it DOCSIS 4 or maybe DOCSIS 5, but basically all they keep doing is they just keep adding channels, or they go from modulations of 256 to 512 to 1024, which means they can go from 38.8 megabit to 80 megabit per 6 megahertz channel. Personally, and I know why they're doing this, and they do it the same exact reason why telephone companies drag their feet. They're so entrenched with these older systems that they don't want to pay the piper and yank it out and put modern technology in. So they keep trying to use technological advances to make older infrastructure work. And that's the reason why you don't see telephone companies offering faster speeds than what they do, is because they've got, hundreds of millions, if not billions of miles of copper in the ground or strung up in the air. And they're like, well, of course, we've got to utilize this. It's already paid for. We don't want to invest anymore. What's the latest and greatest technology? So, of course, they're going to spend, $1 million on endpoint upgrades versus spending, 30, 40, or 50 million on doing an infrastructure. The sad part about that is if they would go ahead and bite the bullet and go to fiber, they'll never have to go to anything else, because, unless we get to the point where wireless can actually walk toe-to-toe with fiber, there's nothing better on the planet right now than pure light. Fiber is unlimited. The only thing that limits it are the endpoints. So I guess to answer your question, I think what they're basically doing is they just keep doing more and more channel bonding when it comes to DOCSIS 3. And if you can, and I think everybody would agree that if you have a choice and you can get your hands on a fiber connection to your house, that's always the best way to go.
That's a no-brainer.
Definitely.
So the only way that we're going to see the internet in the United States change as a whole is if these previous cable companies start doing what Fios is doing and actually running fiber.
Yeah, and if you'll notice one thing, you look around the world and you see all these other countries that have faster default speeds than the United States, and you're like, wait a minute, we invented this stuff. Why is it that we're lagging behind? Well, the same thing happened in the cell phone industry. There's a detriment, in my opinion, of being first to implement technology. That usually means that, as what happened with telephone companies, you get entrenched, you've got so much invested, and then when the newer technologies come along, you're kind of stuck. Whereas you go over to, and I don't mean this in any kind of derogatory statement, but you go over to third world countries and you suddenly wonder why they had LTE before anybody in America even knew what the hell LTE was. And you're
Well,
like,
there's a
they're
reason
walking
for
around.
that.
Well, I mean, you may have a reason for it, but the reason why I see it is because, well, number one, there was nothing over there to begin with. So why not go over there and put in the latest and greatest technologies? Now, with that said, I envision that, 20 years from now, they will be lagging behind, and other areas that are prime for new installations we'll all have our eyes on that going, wow, I really wish we had that.
Yeah, and
Well-
this is how why wireless is much better all around the world than here, because here we're entrenched in cable in the ground and in the air, and it's all through wire.
Well, there's another part of it too. It's not the newer infrastructure is correct. I mean, Steve, are you still here, Steve?
Yeah, still here.
How long have you been able to where you are? Which aren't you kind of out in the sticks?
No, I'm just on the outskirts of the town.
But I mean, how big is the town?
Well, I don't know how big. It's the county town of the state I'm in, if you call it a state. So it's a big town. It's got several thousand, hundreds of thousands of people living here. So it's a big town. It's
So
almost
it's
a city.
Pretty major area.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. I didn't realize there were that many people that close to you. But that being said, I mean, this happened particularly in the UK with water systems. You go to London, and I don't know how much things have changed lately, but as I recall, you often had to have remote local water management equipment, which could include pumps and tanks within your own house to get enough water pressure. Because if they cranked the water pressure high enough on the water pipes in London, it would start rupturing and leaking because it was so old. Well, I mean, obviously, if they haven't already, replace that system, they're going to come in with state-of-the-art. So these other infrastructures where they have either in other countries where they have either really old or no systems, and sure, they're going to come in and put in the best, but there's actually one other aspect of it too, and this is particularly in North Korea. I mean, in Korea, where they've had 100 megabit up and down for years, and that's because it's government subsidized.
Yeah, that's true too. I mean, quite honestly, and I know that we received our fair share of backlash whenever the system was built in Tifton, was the fact that you always heard, well,
Donovan's from Tifton, Georgia. I know you can't tell he's from the South, but go ahead.
Yeah, good old Southern boy down here.
Yeah,
No,
we call it the South Mouth. We all got it here.
Oh,
Yeah.
me too.
Yeah, he's an expert. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's
Finish
okay.
this.
But yeah, we suffered from a lot of backlash of people saying, well, government shouldn't be competing with private business, and on the surface, I do agree with that to a point, and the reason why I say to a point is the fact that the city actually tried to do it the right way. They went to Bell South. They went to the local cable provider, which at the time was TCI, eventually became AT&T, and then Mediacom, and they said, look, we want you to upgrade your systems and start offering the broadband because, we're on a major interstate here. We need to attract more business. Well, both of the companies came back and their proposal was not a win-win. It was a win for them and a loss for the city. So that's the reason why Tifton looked around and said, well, there's other municipalities in the state of Georgia that's doing this. We might as well roll our own. And they did. I mean, they floated a $7.9 million bond. People that thought it was a good bet bought into the bond. The only problem they had was the consultant who did the business plan basically lied and, kind of double counted the homes passed and rolled out with a business plan that if it had been accurate would have been fantastic. But when you're trying to make ends meet and you're working with half the number of potential customers, we got a couple of black eyes. And but with all that said, as soon as we implemented what we did, we were the first to bring broadband internet to the city of Tifton. Within a year, Bell South had implemented DSL, and by that time TCI had sold to AT&T, and AT&T rolled out broadband. But if it hadn't been for us, they still wouldn't have done it. Even then, they would have lagged behind a few more years. So whether the citizens acknowledged it or not, it was a good thing overall, just for the competition aspect. And that's the one time, there may be others, but that's the one time I'm familiar with that I will completely agree that it's okay for government to be involved.
Well, you've probably we've had discussions about this topic till we're blue in the face, and I wish you had been part of those discussions, because a lot of what we're talking about is pure guessing. You've been there, done that, and I think the information you're providing us may be boring to some, but it's fascinating to me, and I appreciate you taking the time. But
Sure.
What we've said here is that at least some of us feel that conceptually we agree that government does not need to be competing with private business. But what has happened over the last 10 years is that the internet has become a commodity like power and water and sewer. It's not just a fun thing to play with anymore like it was when it started. Now, if you are in an area where you want to attract high-tech industry, you're going to have to provide high-speed internet, not only for their own services, but for the satisfaction of their high-tech employees. And that is, if Intel or Google wants to, that's not a good example, some large company wants to build, they're going to bring in 500 employees, the company's going to say, okay, we need a gigabit up and down for our own server farms and so forth, but our employees are techies. These techies want to have excellent internet. We're choosing between community A and community B. Community A has 5 megabit up, and community B has a gigabit Google Fiber. All things being equal, we're going to choose the gigabit. These are more progressive people. And we've had 2 cities in North Carolina that said, wait a minute, we've done exactly what you said, Donovan. The cities went to the major internet providers and said, we need for business development, we need good internet here. And they got the report back, said, no, not enough density, not enough people, we'll never get our money back, it's not worth it. So these municipalities said, all right, we'll do it ourselves, because we used to have furniture manufacturing here, that's gone. We used to have textile manufacturing here, that's gone. We cannot survive. There are not enough jobs or even prospects for jobs to bring people here without high tech, where the salaries are dramatically higher. These municipalities went out, built their own internet systems, and the cable, well, without getting too deep into this part of it, the powers that be in this state said, oh no, we can't have that. We don't like competition. So they lobbied for, got a bill passed that said municipalities cannot participate in the construction of internet providers anymore. And they locked that in place. That caused about 7 communities in North Carolina to be taken off the qualification list for Google Fiber whenever it went to Kansas City and some other places a few years ago. Well, thankfully, actually, Business Magazine or Forbes or one of the magazines just determined that Raleigh, North Carolina is the #1 city in the United States to start a new business. I don't agree with them necessarily because of some nonsense that's going on in government in this state, but I'm at least glad that people feel that way. One of the criteria for being a suitable place to start a business is internet connectivity. It sort of blows my mind that we rated #1 when you consider how pitiful the internet availability is here. But the good side of it is that we are now candidate for Google Fiber and for other high-speed internet, and we even have, what is the name of the outfit over in Wake Forest, Amnon? RCN or something?
RST.
R what?
RST.
RST. They're actually building their own gigabit system over there, and they are actually rolling it out and putting fiber in the ground, RTS fiber. I think Brent's over there. And Brent, are you going to be able to get it, or are you not in the area? Because if you get it, we're going to block you here. So it's happening, but that's in spite of the government. And again, to reiterate, while I don't think the government should be competing with private enterprise, once the private enterprise has declined the opportunity to participate, I think the equation changes.
Hello, Andrew.
Back to you.
Good morning.
Hey, Donovan, one quick question for you.
Hey, Andrew.
Hi,
Is
Mike.
Donovan still here?
He is.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything that the communities can do to try to push these cable companies to either do something different, or is there any way for them to work on trying to start their own thing? Do you have any thoughts on that? Or maybe he's not.
Amnon, did you cut off?
No, he's here. Donovan.
Uh-oh, Steve says he's on hold.
Amnon.
Oh, come on. I added it.
Oh no.
And I don't see this. I don't see.
Fault.
I don't see the pause thing on it. It's normal display.
You're gonna have to hang up and call everybody back.
I ruined it.
It's your
Andrew.
fault.
I ruined it.
No, I don't understand that. That makes no sense. So hold on a second. Let me see if I can click and resume. You see that? No, because it's not paused. Andrew,
Yes.
hang up.
No.
Hang up. Let me see. I just want to see if it'll go away.
And then dial back.
Okay, now I have call on hold here. So let's
should be
see
able
if
to
I can
return
right
call.
click on it, resume call. Okay,
Done.
guys, are you here?
Okay, yeah, I'm back.
Hey, see, nothing
all right.
changed. It looks the same.
All right, Andrew, call in again and see if that add to call works.
Yeah.
Anyway, he'll call back in. So, what was your question for Donovan? What can we do to push the cable companies?
Yeah, push the cable companies, or as a community, do something to start something themselves, or try to push for higher speed internet.
Well, the one thing that I typically recommend is, you have to get your local community leaders involved for one. I mean, like for the city of Tifton, if the city council hadn't have been, the impetus or the driving force behind this, and of course they were being driven by the business people and the economic development people. So you gotta start at that level, and you just gotta work it up into a fevered pitch. And then you actually start going to, and a lot of times I recommend this when you have a lot of problems with a telephone or cable provider, is you go to the state's, God, the term just escaped me, Public Service Commission. You go to the Public Service Commission for each for each state, and you basically say, look, we're an underserved area, we're losing business. And they may not be able to help directly, but it gets the conversation going. And, unless somebody starts just, being like a mosquito and nipping it at the powers that be constantly, you'll never get anywhere. The other thing is, you can always try to roll your own, but I can tell you, unless you got about $10 million laying around in your spare change jar.
Nick does.
I'll just go get a credit card.
Yeah, that's, I lived that way for a while. It eventually catches up with you.
Oh, and that's how you get rich.
I'm going to borrow it from my wife.
I'll borrow from Andrew.
There you go.
I just wanted to say one thing. We're talking about the bandwidth speeds, and we're getting better in the U.S. With the speeds, with advancements in the technology. But a lot of people, when I do a show, a lot of people comment. They go, "I feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for people in the U.S. You guys have a lot of problems with your internet. You guys have a lot of inconsistencies with your speed." Well, there's many reasons for that, but the main reason is we are a gigantic country with 350 million people living in it. 320 million documented people. So imagine how many other people are living here. It is very difficult to provide high-speed, consistent internet to every single person in this house, in this country. When you look at countries like Korea, I posted the numbers. It is a fraction of what our population is. Canada, for example, is a gigantic country with only 30 million people living, and they have one of the worst internets in the world. So it really comes down to the size of the country. It is very difficult to lay out high-speed internet to everybody. And then you go into the problem with the municipalities not letting you in.
Yeah.
But look at Japan. If everybody looks at Japan and Korea and France has good internet, these countries have a much smaller population than the United States. So compare it to a country that's we're number 3 in the world with population. India and China are number 1, and I guarantee you India and China are not providing the speeds that we are.
So Andrew, I agree with your statement, but there are, and I could get on with that if you're still in rural America. But for example, just look at where Mike and Amnon live. They're what are you guys, 20 minutes outside of Raleigh?
No,
Maybe
Amnon's
less?
in Raleigh.
Amnon's
I'm
in
in
Raleigh.
Raleigh.
I'm 10 minutes from downtown Albany, and it's we still can't get good internet. I mean, we're not. It's not like they'd have to. There's a house every 3 miles that they have to run internet to. I mean, you're talking dense population areas, and these cable companies still can't seem to do anything.
Well, we're also talking about older infrastructure. A lot of this infrastructure was laid out many, many years ago, and it's just we are not able to catch up because we have laid so much infrastructure.
It's crazy
That's
because
also-
the
That's also part of the problem is because our infrastructure is old. Especially, our phone lines are falling apart. Our copper lines have been falling apart for many, many years. When DSL came out, most people had awful copper lines, and they had to redo all their copper lines.
Mm-hmm.
They had to redo it for my entire neighborhood because these phone lines were laid out probably when the phone lines were ran. They never changed them. So a lot of these houses had older infrastructure. We had to rewire all our entire house just to have DSL. So it's a lot more difficult when it exists. I mean, sadly, Europe has gone through war many times. So their infrastructure is much newer than ours in many, many European cities.
So what?
Yeah.
Do we have to wait for a war?
Yeah,
it's coming.
that's it. That's what we have.
Yeah.
But when you compare infrastructure, I mean, you look at a place like France and Germany, which had to redo their entire infrastructure, and then you compare
Yeah.
it to the United States that, probably our phone lines were ran in the early part of the 20th century. It's going to be a problem. Now, the
So,
cable
Andrew.
industry is a whole different story because a lot of the cable lines, I mean, if you imagine, is probably ran in the 80s and 90s. And we just haven't updated, and now they're getting to it. The best thing that we could do is complain. I mean, that's the only thing that we could really do is make them aware that there is a problem. And the other thing is, if there's an alternative, we get up and we leave.
But I agree to a point with that, Andrew, but it's a little deeper than that, at least down here, in that complaining is not going to go very far because, as one politician told me, when I asked him, I said, how do you deal with all these complaints? And his comment was, I'm immune to them. The way you deal with it is you vote. You find out when you're deciding, politics, I don't want to get in politics, don't get into politics. But this is not a partisan statement. In fact, I will tell you that the mayor of my city and I don't agree on anything. So now Donovan's on hold again.
Well, I just added Sean, and it went to pause.
Amnon, there's 2 options. You must
No,
be clicking.
there's only one option. It's add on the new one. There's only one option. Add to call. It's not answer. It's add to call. See, and now I can. Now Andrew's gone.
He's on hold.
No, he's not. He's gone.
Well, he hung up because he was on hold, most
Yeah.
likely.
This is. I don't know.
Anyway,
Well, guys,
Donovan's
I got to
dropping
drop off. I got to go take care of some responsibilities, but I've enjoyed it, and I'm going to continue listening. So,
What responsibilities? You need to be here.
well, my wife is working this morning, so
Oh.
Sunday is laundry day. So whenever she's working, I take over the laundry. We have this partnership that we've had for 24 years, and I like to keep it going forward. So,
Yeah,
All
you
right.
better do
I'll-
what you're told.
yeah, I'll be in the chat though. Take care,
All right.
guys.
Donovan, I appreciate you calling in.
Very
Sure,
helpful.
no problem. Bye bye.
See you, Donovan.
Bye for
Sean,
now.
Sean, go ahead and call what is it?
No, I mean, just have them call the regular one.
Nissan Guest. I mean, I don't wanna run into this again. It's the second time that it happens.
Yeah, but do you have Nissan Guest to set up to go to all the right aux sends and everything, or are you gonna have to mess around with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's on the same computer.
No.
Go ahead and try it, Sean.
I'm back.
Nissan Guest.
Hey, so Andrew.
Yes, sir.
So I find this interesting. You said the infrastructure is old in most places.
Yes.
The house that I'm living in, and this whole area is sprouted up within the last 20 years. So I'm curious why these companies still rolled out the old infrastructure with this housing area being so new.
It's all about money.
Yeah, it's all about money. I mean, I'll give you an example. A friend of mine just built a brand new house not in New York, in a brand new development.
Staten Island.
Yes. Junk Island. That place should be. You talk about blowing things up. Staten Island should be wiped off the face of the map. It's a dump.
And back
the
to you.
people that live there are mutants.
Oh my God.
Crawling out of the sewers. So he just moved to this beautiful brand new development, built a brand new house, and the coax lines that they ran inside of the house are thinner coax lines, and the lines that they ran outside are thinner coax lines. It's fiber, and then everything else is thin coax, so he can't get the speed that Comcast is offering. Just doesn't work. I mean, anything like that in the chain could break it. But 20 years ago, Nick, 20 years ago is not, it still needs upgrading.
Oh, I agree it still needs upgrading, but I don't, from the perspective of the cable company, why would they have not just rolled some of the newer stuff out 20 years ago instead of now? I don't see Time Warner anytime soon redoing their infrastructure. That they could care less.
Nick, do you have another option?
No.
Time Warner?
Verizon DSL, and it sucks. My neighbor has it. She's got like 0.3 megabits up.
Yeah.
There's no other option.
Also, 20 years. I mean, I don't know why it's. My other option with Time Warner here would be the same thing: 5 megabits.
Yeah,
Time
and they
Warner
don't care. They have no plan. The
The
CEO of the company said multiple times they have no plan of updating their upspeed. They don't think people need it. Multiple times. They just really don't care.
Hang on a second. Sean can't get in.
It's not
I
just
don't
about the
understand.
lines.
It's not
Also, you have to
ringing.
remember.
He said the call to Nissan Guest is failing.
So then you have to restart Skype, Amnon. On Nissan Guest.
Go ahead. I will. Go ahead.
All right. Sean, he's going to restart Skype. Give him a minute and then try calling Nissan Guest again.
Nick, you also have to remember, what about the infrastructure in their building? The switches.
See, yeah, I agree with that, but so how far do you how far would what is the headquarter thing for the cable company called where they have all the switches and stuff?
The central office. Central, yeah.
How often do they have to have a central office? Like how many X amount of miles?
I don't know about cable, but I remember DSL was you're better off if you're under 5,000 feet.
DSL is short, but for cable,
Sure.
because the whole area I live in is pretty brand new. Like it's within the last 20 years that most of this area. It's just all residential area. It's 5 minutes to the first store. So
yeah, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure how it is for cable, but I know my FiOS central office is 500 feet away.
yeah, see, if the central office or whatever central building is close in this area, then they totally cheaped out when they put the equipment in. Because this whole area is new. There was nothing here. I don't think there was anything here 40 years ago. I mean, there's farms. There's a farm across the street. There's nothing here. So all I can assume is that Time Warner just totally cheaped out and was like, here, we'll just put the same crappy equipment we have in every other central office in this one for this big residential area.
It also
So now
has to
they're-
do with, I mean, a lot of these companies being ran by people that don't understand how their users are using a service because they may not be using the service like their users. That's majority of the problem. I mean, we talk about VidBlaster and we talk about Wirecast, right? And we realize that the people developing the software are not using it the way it's intended to be used. And that's part of the problem. I don't think that these guys in charge are running servers and they're gaming and they're trying to do Skype video. If they did and it failed and they could do something to change it, I guarantee you they would do something to change it. The people in charge are just not using it the way that we are using it. Or they may not even be in the neighborhood with Time Warner. I mean, there's a good chance that these people are working and they're heads up and they're decision makers and they don't have Time Warner cable. So they have no idea how crappy their service is or how limiting 5 meg up is.
But
They
see,
did
they are.
know.
The CEO is the owner of the CEO has said multiple times that people don't need it. That Time Warner does not care.
And how
in the
old is
slightest.
this guy? How old is their CEO? How old are
not
these
that old.
decision makers? You know what? I'm sorry, I know that a lot of the viewers are older, but if you're a 40 plus, 50 plus man that has no concept of what they're uploading, and if they're never doing Skype and they're never doing anything, YouTube viewing, you know what? They're not going to care. They are not going to care. You know when they do care? When their son comes to them and says, "What's going on, Dad? My internet is really bad," and they happen to have Time Warner. That's when they're going to make a decision to update their speed.
See, I don't see that happening in the foreseeable future with Time Warner.
Well-
Unless Comcast buys them, I'm probably
Well-
going to be on 5 megabits for the next 5 years.
I don't agree with that, and the reason why is because for starters, and it's we don't like Time Warner here. Sean, try again.
Yeah,
We don't
he's
like
he's
Tom-
in.
Okay, you hear Sean?
Yep.
Wow,
Wow.
7 o'clock where you are.
Oh, yes.
Are you just getting up, or you haven't been to bed yet?
Now I'm just getting up.
Wow. So anyway, we'll come. I got some questions for your internet out there, but we don't like Time Warner here. But in reality, what's going to cause Time Warner to change is competition, and they're going to have to keep up or lose out because I believe Eric is in Austin, and Austin is a very high-tech city. In fact, this is really interesting because we're represented here by 3 very high-tech cities. We've got Sean technically out in Silicon Valley, and Eric is down in Austin. We're here in Raleigh, and these 3 cities are 3 of the top cities as far as connectivity objectives are concerned. And when I say that is because I mean, where Sean is, they're way ahead of us over near where he is. And in Austin, Eric says they've got 3 1 gigabit companies down there. And here we've got no 1 gigabit, although it's starting up. So hopefully that's going to happen. But all that being said, down in Austin, I believe it was one of the companies, Eric will maybe tell us, but I believe it was either Time Warner or AT&T said we can't provide that sort of bandwidth. We can't. We don't have that. Our infrastructure will not support it. Google Fiber announced they were going in, and like 3 months later, they were offering 600 or 800 megabit up and down on the same system. So either they didn't know what they had or they lied.
So Eric right now has Eric right now has AT&T because fiber's not fully rolled out in exactly the area where he lives yet, and I think AT&T was that company, Mike.
That's
Right,
what he
and-
said. He said AT&T said that as UVerse, and then all of a sudden they start providing. Now I believe they only got to 600 or 800 megabit. He has 300 right now, but and that sounds
Even in Kansas City, Time Warner's max upload or download speed is 100 megabits.
That's because it's probably, and that's where I wish Donovan were here. I suspect that's the limit of their infrastructure.
I have a feeling that is the limit. If that's the most they could do to compete with Google Fiber was 100 megabits. That's not even on the same scale.
Let me add something. I don't know that that's the limit of their service because they call it a gigabit. I think it's because 300 or 100 or whatever is still the fastest of anybody else in that area.
No, I'm talking about Kansas City here.
I know,
Google
and in
Fiber.
Kansas City, who's in Kansas City?
Google Fiber.
I
1
understand, and that's a gigabit service, but they don't need to give you gigabit whether you use it or not, because if they give you 100 or 200, it is still faster than anybody else in Kansas City, and people will flock to it because of the
No,
price.
See, now it's totally opposite. Google Fiber is less than the gigabit Google Fiber plan is less than the Time Warner cable plan. That's 100 megabits. Cost-wise, it is definitely. It's got to be the limit of their system. It's got.
Are you saying that Kansas City has 100 megabit from Time Warner?
They have 100 megabit down from Time Warner in Kansas City. That is all they could do to compete with Google Fiber was 100 megabits, and that's not even on the same scale. The only thing I can think is that's the limit of their system.
Nick, listen to yourself a second. Who are their competition?
Google Fiber.
No, who are their competition? Who is Google Fiber's competition in Kansas City?
Nobody.
No, there is Time Warner.
That's not a competition. If you can get 100 megabits from Time Warner for $80 a month and you can get a gigabit from Google Fiber for $40, who are you going to go with?
Okay, now you're going in that. Now, if you can get 100 megabit from Time Warner for $80 and you can get 200 gigabits or 110 gigabits, or you know what? Let's go with 100, the same speed for 40. Who are you going to go with?
The
Both of them? Both of them give you 100 megabit. One is $80, one is $40.
That's not the situation.
Yeah,
though.
I don't think that's the same.
It's not the situation. Google Fiber, the most that Time Warner Cable could do in Kansas City to compete with Google Fiber was 100 megabits. That's got to be the limit of their system.
Okay.
It's got to be. Why else they would
okay. I guess I missed. I thought you meant that's Google's limit.
No.
Okay.
So that's why I'm thinking that's if Time Warner has to compete with Google Fiber, and that appears to be the most that they could do was 100.
But I think I understand what Amnon's saying, and even though
I understand what he's saying as well.
And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but if what I hear is correct, if you're saying what I think that you're saying is that 100 megabit is enough, and at this point in time, I agree. Eric's saying it, I agree. 100. I mean, we'd love to have 100 megabit up and down, and we'd shut up for 2 or 3 years if we had it. But that's not the model. The model is for Google to be disruptive and come in and put in 1 gigabit up and down, and then the issue goes away. I mean, that's their business model. And screw the competition. If you want to keep up, keep up. If you don't, then you just have to take what's left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't think 100 megabits is enough, especially if Google Fiber is in the place. But the whole point I was getting at was Time Warner being the cable company in Kansas City, the only thing they could do to compete with Google Fiber was to have 100 megabits down. It's not 100 megabits up. It's 100 megabits down and 5 megabits up. They're still at that 5 megabit up cap.
Wow.
So Nick,
from what I
here
understand.
in New York City, we have Verizon Fios that got introduced in 2009 for internet, and then Fios TV got introduced, I think, like 2011. No, I'm sorry. Fios Internet got introduced in 2008, and Fios TV got introduced in 2010. And we have Time Warner, and Time Warner has not budged on their speed. Fios, this week, upped all the bandwidth speeds for the company. Right now, the most that you can get is 500 by 500, so half a gigabit. My theory is that they found out that Google's about to announce that they got approval in more cities, and this is their way of fighting with that. I wouldn't be surprised if an announcement comes out within the next 6 months that Google's coming to New York.
What?
Well, that'd be expensive infrastructure. Sean,
Yes.
so what is the maximum available bandwidth you can order at your home right now in California?
Consumer.
Okay. Good thing Nick said consumer.
not the
Comcast
business
has
line.
105 down, 20 up.
So you could call tomorrow and order 105 down, 20 up.
Yep.
At what cost?
I think it's $200 a month.
Wow.
No, it might be less than that. It might be like 150.
Well,
My
what do
ti-
you have now?
50 down, 10 up.
And what are you paying?
I think 75, 80.
I'm 75. I'm 70 for 30 by 5.
So here's the other part of this, okay?
Oh, okay. I got you.
$70 a month.
I have 150 up, and I cannot upload via FTP. I cannot upload more than 2 megabytes. I should be able to upload about 15 to 18 megabytes per second. I can't do more than that because there's a bottleneck somewhere. For the life of me, I cannot figure it out.
That's not Fios. That might not necessarily be Fios' problem, though, Andrew.
But it could be a temporary issue too.
No, well, that is the most that it could do. And
But you
I
said you
think
weren't
it is a Fios.
able to get that on your internal network, and if it's on your internal network, then it's nothing. Fios can't do that.
I can't get it on my internal.
Well, then something with your that's the point, though. If you can't get it on your own home network, then how would you expect to get it out on the internet?
Well, I think it's the router. I think it's the Fios router. So they are doing something where they're regulating I think they're manipulating the bandwidth, and I think they're doing some packet shaping when you upload. But internally, I even think that the routers are being throttled.
Oh, have you thought about installing open source firmware? Because I know that exists for the Fios routers.
No, you cannot use a third-party router with Verizon Fios if you have TV.
No. Installing open source firmware on your Fios router, because I know that exists.
No, you cannot do that because it runs TV also.
But what I'm guessing is going on here, and just a guess, not anything that I know, is that with this being the first week, they're just rolling the service out, and that's probably a kink they've got to get out of the system.
It's been like this for 3 years, Mike.
No, and each protocol can be regulated on the router.
Can it be regulated by? Isn't it regulated by ports?
Yes, and in most cases that's how it's being done. But there's more. You can get for your own purpose. You can get around the ports because you can say, okay, I want to set port number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That's
for
what
my
done.
For my FTP. Nobody else will be able to use it except me unless I tell them.
Yeah,
that's what Andrew does.
That's what we've done. We've opened up the proper ports, and we've tried different ports, and there's nothing that we do that gets us over 2.5 megs.
Okay, so I have a solution for you. Or not a solution. Have you tried using a peer-to-peer service?
Yes.
What did you use?
The BitTorrent service.
Okay, and what was your experience with that?
2.5.
2.5. So the same thing you were getting with
Same
FTP.
thing I'm getting with the FTP. And I've done SFTP, and HTTP was the worst.
Have you done passive
FTP? 500K.
And let me understand the issue here. The issue here is that you're bandwidth limited on FTP uploads?
Yeah.
Okay.
FTP and HTTP.
Like you're sending it to John?
Like I'm sending it to John. But if I'm uploading to, let's say, YouTube, it's fine. Or any one of Daily Motion, it's fine.
So
I don't have a problem with that. It's a weird issue I have with sending it to individuals.
All right. So isn't John on Comcast?
He is.
So have you tried to do an upload to Sean on Comcast?
So I have tried doing an upload to me within my network with my IP. So I'm just going directly to the local IP on that FTP. And I could only get, I think locally I'm able to get 5 or 6 with that, with the FTP, within the network.
Not going out to the internet. It's
not going out to the internet, just staying within the network. I'm able to get about 5 or 6. If I leave the network and I connect to the IP address of that, not the computer, but the IP address for that connection, I'm getting around between 2.5 to 4, it depends.
Mike, now you need to play Sean's voice.
But yeah, I mean, you said 5 to 6. 6 times 8 is 48 plus overhead is probably 55 megabits, and you really had 65. So you're saying that the problem is exactly the same?
I have 150.
At 150, it's identically the same.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing. 150 is the same as 65 or whatever it was.
I've got a solution.
Yes.
Get a Mac.
I'm on a Mac.
Oh, well.
Oh.
Good Saturday morning.
I
Donovan
would.
says
I
it
would.
sounds like the FTP is given a lower priority, which is possible.
That sounds right.
And that has to be internally within the router.
And what
So
does
Nick,
what
I'll
does
tell you something about the FiOS routers. The FiOS routers are not necessarily routers, but they control all your TVs. So if you have FiOS TV also, you cannot replace that router. You have to use the FiOS Action Tech, router.
Have you tried plugging one computer into the file server?
I have not.
Like
That's the next
directly?
thing I have to try. No, that's the next thing I have to try.
what do you
the-
mean
to-
directly into the modem, Sean?
No,
No,
directly
like
to
have
the
a
network.
cable in between both computers and do a file transfer.
But
Mike-
you've done it also from your PCs too, though, right?
Yeah. And I've tried it on both my internet lines, and they're both the same. Same issue.
Hmm.
But they're both FiOS.
Hmm.
And these are all gigabit, switches and cards.
Well, you need DSL Extreme.
I do. My internet service provider.
Andrew,
Yes.
did you get the link to the Hangout this morning?
No?
You took yourself out of this? What do you
I
mean?
did.
No, but I'm sending it to you. It
Nick told
says,
me I was
Andrew,
spam. I'm not in it.
you did not get
No.
anything from Computers 2K now.
I wouldn't see him as ever added in none.
Yeah, well, no, he's in it because when I'm looking at the group right now that's up and running, it's C2 Nick Craig, Mike Phillips, Andrew Zarian.
I'm not in it. Did you add my
Mike,
other-
will you
did add
send him
Paul?
the thing? I want you to connect to the Hangout. You don't need to use your video, but at least when you talk, you'll be up there.
He is not in this group.
I'm looking here.
I'm looking here too. In fact, I'm having trouble finding it. Where is it?
Well, I'm going to have to go anyway in a couple minutes. So.
All right. C2K, Nick
I just
Craig,
added him.
Mike Phillips, Andrew Zarian, last activity 1 hour ago. That's on Computers 2K Voice. I mean, Computers 2K now. Anyway.
This is a private one.
And I should have told Sean too. Sean,
Well,
you don't
Sean's
have
not going to be getting up early enough in the future.
Sean, you don't have an avatar on your Skype?
No, I don't. It's just my name.
Okay. And Steve,
Wait a minute, Sean's here?
He does. Yes.
I got to go.
that was mean, Andrew.
Ooh.
All right. No, he's gone already. He didn't wait.
He's a comedian.
I need to add Steve to that too. Steve, you need to start connecting to the Hangout.
Oh, Hangouts, that's interesting. I haven't done one of those for about 18 months.
No.
I'll have to remember how to do it.
Just click on it,
On what?
on the link.
Oh, you send it to him?
No, we don't want to change anything now. We do it.
You
Off
can.
the air.
No,
Be-
you can. You can. I mean, if he gets added.
Everything's fine. Let's don't start changing things.
All right.
Let's do it. Let's test off the air so we don't have to
All right.
make a mess.
We don't want to break it live.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I had an interesting thing that I was looking at yesterday, and that is, even though at this point Time Warner is not imposing data caps, I like to play with the bandwidth not only to see what's going on my network, but to pretend like there's a cap in case it happens. What would my position be? And in looking at my internet usage over time, I was typically, for a long time, in the 150 to 250 gigabyte range. Then I started doing Netflix binge watching for a while. In March, I used 276, April 314, May 330, June 376. So far in July, 229. Which all, I guess those are reasonable numbers considering Stephen Haywood's using 5 terabits, which Nick's a math expert, but where I'm at 229, he is at 5,000. But what was interesting is we had a very long hangout yesterday. Last Sunday, we had a long hangout, and somehow last Sunday, I used 28 gigabytes of data. And that is the largest I've had in a long time. And yesterday we had a very long hangout, and I used 12 gigabytes, which I guess I don't understand what's going on. I don't have a rogue computer downloading in the background. My understanding is that with Roku, that the standard on a Roku is that after a show finishes, it stops instead of continuing as continuous. Is it possible, I guess, to set Roku on a channel and have it continuously download?
I don't think so. I think it's not downloading. Well, actually, yeah. If you're on the live, it will continue to download the same.
Well, let's take Twit. If you set it on Twit, Nick, is it going to play forever?
Nick just came back, so ask it again.
I'm sorry.
If you set a Roku on something like, say, Twit, where they have 24/7 streaming,
Yes.
is the Roku going to continue streaming 24/7, or is it going to time out at a certain point?
Okay, so it could depend on the app. Like the app author could have it set so that the app will time out. But if there's content on the screen, the app will not time out. The Roku will stay on. Now, if you leave the Roku on the home screen, it will time out, and you will see that by the LED on the front. It'll go from like blinking to totally off. But if you're streaming content on an app and the app isn't set to automatically kick you off, then you're fine.
Because I was talking with my wife about yesterday about what she's watching, because she has a Roku that she uses on one TV to watch NHL stuff, but she also has the NHL subscription that she uses on her computer. So at one point, she had 2 HD downloads going at one time because she would watch one thing with NHL on the TV while having something going on. And it's possible that whenever she got done watching, she left 1 or 2 of those going. So I guess the proper thing to do is to hit the home button on the Roku when you're done watching.
Now the NHL, I would be surprised if the NHL doesn't have an automatic timeout. That would surprise me very much.
4 hours too.
Correct. It might. Well, I don't think it'd be 4 hours, but if it has a timeout, it's probably 2 or 3 hours without any anything on the screen or any activity with the remote, or because it can the remote's it's Bluetooth, so it can sense what's going on with the remote.
No, the Roku 3s are Ethernet. They're not Bluetooth.
Okay. I didn't. I mean, they have a sync button, so I would assume they are Bluetooth and not.
Roku 3. I thought they were too, and because the Roku 2 has Bluetooth, which is fabulous, absolutely fabulous remote control. And when I got the Roku 3, it seemed to work exactly the same way and be just as fabulous, so I naturally assumed it was Bluetooth. But then someone here corrected me that it was Ethernet, and I think it may have been Tony, I'm not sure. But someone here corrected me, and it turns out that is correct.
Okay, yeah, it is Wi-Fi support. Okay.
Which again is fabulous.
Yeah.
Dan Ortega is asking where I got my mixer.
He bought it on a credit card.
eBay, I think.
I don't think so. Didn't you buy it from the same company Amnon got his?
No, I thought about mine off of eBay.
I don't think so. It could have been, but I don't think so. Who called in?
Hello?
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, I want to ask about Malwarebytes.
Go for it.
I've used it for years. Mainly I use the Microsoft Security Essentials, but I found Malwarebytes does find some stuff that Security Essentials does not find. But recently they've upgraded, I guess, the Malwarebytes, and my home screen on Malwarebytes says that license expired. And I don't know
Okay,
whether
here's what happened.
Okay.
Steve, stand by. We'll get you fixed.
I know. I'm trying. I don't. It's not, I need. When this caller hangs up, I'm going to restart Skype here too.
Sean, you're on a different account.
Yeah.
So here's what happened. Whenever Malwarebytes updated, and I believe the major update was to version 2.0, they did something really slimy that I wish these developers would not do, and that is they put check blocks on there that the way they're written out, and sometimes the way they have default check blocks in there, they cause you to make choices that you should not make. And what they say is, do you want to install, I don't remember what the language is, but it's in essence, do you want to install the trial version for real-time monitoring of your system? If you don't read it carefully or don't stop to look at it, you'll click that, and what it does is it installs the real-time version of Malwarebytes, which is exactly the same installation package as the non-real-time version. It's a free 30-day trial of the real-time version, after which it times out. Now, did you buy a license to Malwarebytes, or are you using the free version?
Been using the free version for years.
All right. I don't remember where it is, but go through the options and settings and preferences in Malwarebytes and turn off real-time monitoring, because you'll notice that it is starting up and running whenever you start your computer. It's automatic. And you want to turn off the real-time monitoring, and it'll get rid of that problem, because it thinks that you want to use the paid version, but you have not paid for it, so it wants you to pay for it to continue the real-time version.
Yeah, so I just opened mine, and if you go to the settings tab, there's a scheduler settings, and it says that feature's only available with a license, so it might be in there.
In the settings tab, and you said what, scheduler?
Yeah, I don't have the premium version of it, and I never activated it, so I'm not currently on it, but that's where it says this feature is only available for licensed users, so it might be in there.
Okay, so you think I may find a way to uncheck that box somewhere in settings?
And if everything else fails, you could always uninstall and reinstall the software and just do not activate the premium version.
Correct.
And that would solve your problem as well.
And you have to be careful the way it's written. I'm going to look too here. I don't know which computer I have it on here. The other thing that I wanted to say to you is Microsoft Security Essentials and Malwarebytes do not do the same thing. Malwarebytes is not an antivirus program. It's an anti-malware program. Microsoft Security Essentials is an antivirus program. Now, having said that, there's probably some overlap between the two, and I don't exactly know where that overlap is, but as a general consensus, you should run both. You should never run two antivirus programs at the same time. That can really screw up the performance of your computer. But having said that, if you can run Malwarebytes in real time and an antivirus at the same time, because I have some people doing that. Now, I just opened Malwarebytes on one of my computers, and it had not been updated in 6 weeks. So it said, there's a new version. Do you want to update? I said yes. So it updated, installed, and then it came to the setup screen. It says, setup is finished installing Malwarebytes on your computer. The application may be launched by selecting the installed icons. Click Finish to exit setup. There are 2 check blocks here, and one of them says, enable free trial of Malwarebytes Anti-Malware Premium. And you have to uncheck that block and then hit Finish. If you don't uncheck it, you run into the problem that you're dealing with. So I'm unchecking that and clicking Finish, and then it brings it up and it's going to do some updating and so forth. Then and I hate their new screen, but their new screen says real-time protection available with Malwarebytes Anti-Malware Premium. And this is updating the database, so I'm not clicking on things yet, but I will see if I can find the setting. But this is a common issue. It's not a problem. It's just a pain, because you want to run Malwarebytes manually, or either you want to pay for it and let it run in the background. If you're one who has a bad habit of clicking on stuff, I'd suggest you pay for it. If you run Malwarebytes and rarely find anything, then I would suggest you not pay for it and that you continue to use the free version.
All right. In case I can't find it under settings, I could just eliminate Malwarebytes and then reload it new, and it would come up with that screen you just were talking about.
Correct, but I'm also looking here to see where the scan for rootkit.
Yeah, just make sure when you reinstall it, it'll say, I believe right when you install the software, it'll say 30 days or 60 days free of premium activate or whatever. Just make sure you just click cancel or select no, and it'll be fine.
Okay.
I'm still looking, so stand by.
All right.
I'm not sure where it is because I don't have the premium version installed here. But whenever you start it, you will have a menu that has dashboard, scan, settings, history, and so forth. And I suspect that somewhere on the settings tab, you have general settings, malware exclusions, web exclusions, detection and protection. And I suspect, actually, I think I found it, but I'm not sure because, again, it's not set this way. But when I go to the settings tab, detection and protection, on the right-hand side of the menu, you will have an entry that says malware protection, enabled, disabled. I suspect yours is going to say enabled.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want it enabled because I think that's really saying real time, because disabled for manually running it makes no sense, because why manually run a program and then have it do nothing? That's like iTunes. So I suspect that yours is checked as enabled, and you will want to check disabled.
Okay. I'll give her a shot, and I thank you for your help, guys.
Let us know. Call us back.
Care.
We're here another hour and a half.
All right.
Have a good one.
Whoever called during, I did not want to cause another.
Hey, Amnon.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at Skype. There, you have to click add to conference. There's an add call, or it says add to call, and there's another option. It's under a drop down or something.
Yeah, but I mean, in the beginning of the show, we had Steve, we had somebody else, and I just clicked add to call.
Yeah, there's another option. I think there's a little like down arrow.
Let's
when somebody else calls in. Next time somebody calls in, look for the other setting, because it's there.
I'm rebooting it right now. The Skype.
Yeah.
But Steve, you can go ahead and connect to Computers 2K. I'm sorry, to Nissan Guest. And all right, it's back up, so we'll see.
I agree with Brent. He says that the new screen, and this is unfortunate, that the new screen for Malwarebytes looks very much like fake antivirus or anti-malware software. I mean, when you look at it, you say, whoa, is this real? So.
Okay. All right, so go ahead, and whoever was calling, go ahead and call back.
It didn't tell you who was calling?
No, it was a phone number. I don't remember what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about the internet and speeds and all that, did you find any more information about that story about Wilson?
I was reading through it, and no, I don't even know what the point of the story is. Amnon sent me a story.
The story is here. It says 2 cities, Chattanooga, Tennessee, and Wilson, North Carolina, have officially asked the federal government to help them bypass state laws banning them from expanding their community-owned gigabit fiber internet connection. In states throughout the country, major cable and telecom companies have battled attempts to create community broadband networks, which they claim put them at a competitive disadvantage. The FCC will decide if it's able to circumvent state laws that have been put in place restricting the practice. Wilson, North Carolina, built their own 100 megabits fiber network before that law was passed. I guess now they want to expand it to areas right outside of Wilson or whatever, and they find out that now, before they were grandfathered, they couldn't do anything about it, but to expand it, they cannot do it.
I agree. I don't think they should be allowed to expand it.
Why?
So, Wilson is a county or a town?
It's a town.
Okay,
it's
so-
both,
Okay, so
I think.
okay, so if it's a county,
No, it's a city.
it's a city. Okay, inside of another county. So I think that they should not be able to expand out if they are creating a community internet, and I'm not sure everybody's going to agree with me on this. If they're creating a community internet for the town of Wilson, North Carolina, they should not be able to expand outside the borders of Wilson, North Carolina.
I don't think that's what they're saying.
That's what Amnon just said.
Well,
Not really.
that's what
No.
I'm getting, but it may be that there are other places in the city, or if maybe areas.
If they're so you said expand outside the city limits.
Well, this is a Slashdot article, and these are not
Yeah,
always written
it's not
really
exactly right.
Okay, so if they are staying inside the city of Wilson, I am all for it. But when they start expanding outside the city of Wilson, outside the city limits,
Yeah.
now you're working into okay, now we're in another city,
And
now
what
we're in
is
another
wrong-
city, and next thing you know,
And-
they're half of North Carolina.
And what
they're
is
just
wrong
like,
with
I'm out.
that? If they are giving people better service, better prices, and more reliable because they learn how to use a system, this is a capitalistic country. Let them. I
really.
mean, is somebody that has a store in Wilson cannot sell to somebody from Raleigh?
No, that's not how it works with stores.
Well-
But with the internet, when the internet was proposed, I guarantee you it was proposed as an internet for Wilson, North Carolina. Not
I
proposed
understand-
as an
I
internet- Where's
understand-
Wilson located in North
I
Carolina?
understand perfectly that that's what it was. It actually it was not. They decided to do it there the way that I understood it because it was Time Warner did not want to give the right service in that area. So say, okay, so we are going to do our own. And that's before Time Warner lobbied for that law. But
Okay.
even if the law exists right now, I mean, this is going back to what Mike was talking about earlier, about the fact that Raleigh is having a problem getting Google Fiber because Google comes in and they want the community to carry some of the weight. They don't want to go all. I mean, of course, they can do it all with their own money, but they want the community to carry some to show that they really care. So, hey, give us 1% or whatever it is. I don't know. But the law that was passed in North Carolina and in some other 20 states or whatever is no, governments cannot go in with other providers to do that. That is done entirely 100% to protect Time Warner's ability to sell in North Carolina. And that, in my opinion,
monopoly.
what?
They said it's a monopoly.
It's a monopoly. And in my opinion, that should not be.
Okay, but so where do you stop? Where do you do the cutoff point?
You don't
Adrian
have
said
a
in the
cutout point.
Adrian said in the chat that areas just outside the city limits, like water and sewer. Okay, so if let's say you live right outside the city limits, but you're getting water and sewer and whatever else from the town of Wilson,
Right.
then maybe you are eligible to get that internet.
But you see, the thing is that Time Warner can wave that sword and say, no, you cannot.
Okay, but I don't think that the town of Wilson's internet service should be able to expand outside of the town of Wilson.
I would say that it should be able to expand to anywhere that they want. Here is RST Cable now. That was in another city, Gastonia or somewhere in Western North Carolina that's now doing it in Wake Forest. But they had some services in Wake Forest or something, but somehow they got around. That's their service. And apparently Time Warner cannot do a thing about it. I'm not familiar with all the details of that political thing. But as far as I'm concerned, if Home Depot wants to build a store in another city, they are able to. If they can bring better service and better products and better prices to a community, they should be able to. This is what the American way is all about.
Used to be.
Amnon,
Compete.
I don't believe that that's how the internet service. I would like to figure out how that internet service was proposed. If this,
Okay, I
is
don't
this-
know. You
is-
can do
is
some
Greenlight
reading.
NC this Wilson internet thing?
What?
Is Greenlight NC
Yeah,
the Wilson
That's
internet?
it. That's Greenlight
First of
is
all,
the
it's,
one.
it's not even 100 megabits. It's 20 megabits.
Mm-mm.
No.
Yeah, it is. Look at their. Yes, it is. Go to their plans
And
package.
their website is wrong because
The highest plan they offer is 20 megabits up and down.
Not true, because Amnon had a friend who lived
Yeah.
there and he had 100 up and down.
Yeah.
And they've advertised. In fact, if you go to their website, it says 1 gigabit network.
Yeah, if I'm on the price, I'm on the packages page, and it's just 20. up
It
and
may
down
be
on all their
it may
plans.
be that you're looking at residentials, and maybe they have different things for commercial. I don't know.
So, if,
But the point
I-
is, my point is very simple, and it doesn't involve any politics. It's if there is a company called Greenlight, and they happen to be in Wilson, and they have good service, reliable service, price-wise, it competes with others, and people want it, they should be able to buy it.
I don't think my thing is political here. I just if this Greenlight NC was proposed as Wilson, North Carolina's internet service provider, I don't think that they have the right to expand outside the city of Wilson.
The only reason that I can think of that it was proposed and done as a Wilson, North Carolina
Well, that's what it is.
project, it's because the people of Wilson helped with money to develop it. So it was for us. Hey, it's for us. It's just like you started a little business and you do it for us. If somebody today is going to come and say, hey, Nick, you have Craig Digital Designs. It's a good company. I'd like to run offshoot of it, like Sean would want to do it in California. And you said, okay, Sean, you
Digital
take it.
Designs wasn't proposed as the web design and Roku app company for Albany, New York. It was proposed as just a web design and Roku development company. If it was not, this is totally speculation here.
Yeah, I understand, and it's on mine
But
too.
it says Greenlight is a service of the city of Wilson, North Carolina. If this was proposed and brought to whatever board, who I don't know who has to agree to this thing. Ooh, some higher up. They proposed this as the Wilson, North Carolina Internet Service Company. We serve Wilson, North Carolina. I don't think they have the right to expand.
All
Because
right.
that's not what their original proposal was.
But that's really beyond the scope of this story. I was letting you guys have
Right.
it out here. By the way, Nick, what you were looking at on the 20 megabit up and down,
Mhm.
that was as part of a TV package. If you go to the internet-only service that I posted
Where-
in the chat,
Oh, in chat.
you
Okay.
will see that they provide 1 gigabit internet only, up and down, for $155 a month.
Okay. Yeah. No. I don't know why they don't have that advertised on that page.
Nick, let me
Nobody
give you another example. When I
But
said,
before you do, Amnon, I don't want us to get too far off.
Yeah,
the
I know.
point.
no, I
But
want
here,
him.
Let me say this.
Yeah.
The story is about whether the federal government can trump the state government
Right.
to bypass this
Yeah.
restrictive legislation. Now go ahead.
Yeah, no, I understand, but and it's because of that all this turmoil is, because they are not allowing them. But Nick, to make it clear what things can happen. I mean, when I set up my corporation back in the early 80s, it was proposed, and it's on the papers, on the everything that was there, that it is a North Carolina corporation.
Exactly.
It is a North Carolina corporation. That's it.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that I cannot go outside of North Carolina. All that means is that I pay the taxes and stuff here in North Carolina, and then if I'm somewhere else, I may have to pay it there too. But if I had a house in Tennessee and I decided to open another offshoot of Delta Force in Tennessee, I don't have to set up another corporation, but then I'll have to pay probably taxes over there and over here. But nobody would be able to tell me you can't do that.
Okay, so if you set up Delta Force to serve the people of Raleigh, North Carolina,
Yeah.
then you know what? To a certain extent, I don't think you have the right to service other people. If it was proposed as a business to serve a certain group of people, and
I don't know about that. I don't know if that's how it works, but
I'm not saying that's how it works. I just that's my thoughts on it. Because okay, great. So now they start expanding all these other places. Where's the limit?
They were asking. They're asking, and I think, didn't we read a story sometime before that they actually, some states or municipalities were actually successful in getting the FCC to intervene here and declare that law that it's unlawful or something, and Sean just hung up.
He said he was going to take a nap.
That's all right. It seems like I remember there was something, and it's not just these two cities. These two cities right now are in the news for it, but there are a lot of communities that would like to do it themselves, or to, like in our case, Google wants to come in. No, Google, sorry.
Okay, so why is Google not allowed to come in, but Greenlight NC is allowed to expand outside their city limits? That's not right.
That's not to say that Google is not going to come in. Off the bat, Google cannot come in, but I'm sure there are ways around it. Otherwise, they wouldn't even talk about it. Come on. This law has been on the books for how long now, Mike? 2 years? 3 years?
I don't know. It's been a while.
Yeah. Why would Google even consider announcing that Raleigh is one of the places they want to go to? Why would they do that? They must know something that we don't yet. Otherwise, they wouldn't waste their time.
Okay, so if there's a big problem with so let's say, Amnon, what happens if you want to start your own internet service provider right now?
Yeah.
Can you do that?
Oh, yeah. You can start your
own.
own. The difference is if I go and I ask Raleigh to help because I'm bringing something to the community that doesn't exist somewhere else, and I'm saying, okay, I'm willing to bring it, guys, but you're going to have to help me some. That is against the law right now in North Carolina.
And that's exactly what this Greenlight NC would be doing.
But I understand, and this is why they're not doing it. They're asking the FCC. They know they cannot do it.
And I don't think they have the right. If Amnon Nissan can't do it, why are these guys any better? Because
and
they got
I
him before
don't
the
know. Okay,
because they got him before the deadline.
Nick. All right, it's you're not looking at the whole picture. You're not looking at the whole picture because right now, according to the law, you cannot do it in North Carolina or 20 other states. But there must be something that we still don't know about it because it doesn't make sense that we shouldn't be able to do it. Google knows something that we don't, and they say, okay, we're going to go to that city. Well, you can't come to the city according to the law right now. Well, we know, but we're still going in there. And they're not telling you what it is or how it is or whatever. We'll just have to wait and see. And it was interesting to see that 2 other cities and one of our cities is asking the FCC to intervene. That's the story, that they can't do it on their own. Maybe they don't have lawyers like Google has, and they don't have the knowledge of what. And they're saying, let's do something here. Whether the FCC is going to be able to help them or not, time will tell. And I'd like to see the FCC come and say, forget it. You cannot enforce that law in North Carolina. That's against whatever. Because, and to get political here, where everybody knows at this point that the people that voted on it were the uninformed legislator. They knew nothing about it. They didn't even know what they're doing. All they wanted is Time Warner is lobbying them, and they're going to protect Time Warner. If it had to be done, if it had to go over again now, I don't think it would pass because what?
It passed in a heartbeat.
You think so?
I know so.
I just don't think it's right for Amnon Nissan to not be able to do it in the town, or not to be able to do it in the town of Raleigh, but because Wilson got in before the door, now they can expand to every other town or every other city and town in North Carolina. I don't
think that's the question. I don't think that's what they're trying to do. I think they're trying to expand. I don't know that. I mean, Gene is kind of.
That's why I was asking where the limit is. If Amnon can't set it up in Raleigh because it's against the law,
that's
then
not the issue. The issue is whether they can do it with government money.
Well, yeah, and you don't think these people have to be getting government money? Why?
Who?
This Greenlight people. If they start going into other, but I'm saying now, if they start going to other towns, I don't agree with it.
But I don't know if it's other towns. I think they're trying to expand within their own system, but the law precludes them from doing so. But the problem is not whether they can expand. It's whether they can expand with government money. Now, having said that, in looking at their offerings here, and Donovan could weigh in on this, but I'm looking at 100 megabits internet only, $105 a month. And I suspect at that price, they're probably making money. Now, if they're making money, then my political hat goes on, and I say, wait a minute, if you guys are making money, then why do you need the government to supplement your development? It maybe government was necessary to get you going because nobody wanted to go into Wilson and put in internet service. But now that you're up and running, if you're not self-sustaining, you need to be self-sustaining. You don't need to be continually funding the internet with government money. So at this point, I guess I'm not sure if I agree with the rule at this point, because I don't think government should be competing with private enterprise, but sometimes I think the government may have a useful role in kicking off a technology like an internet technology. I don't have enough information.
Right, to give a push, to give a little nudge to
overcome that initial resistance to providing the service. But at this point in time, and again, I'm commenting on this from a point of absolute ignorance. But if were meeting with someone with Greenlight and asking the question I would ask is, are you self-sustaining at the prices you're charging now for internet and television? And if you're not, then you need to raise your prices. And if you can't compete price-wise with someone else in your community, then you have something wrong. Because while government may be able to provide seed funding to start something, government is the last entity you ever want to operate a commercial entity because they have no profit incentive.
Right.
I feel like what I'm saying is coming off the wrong way, because Adrian is saying that is implying that I don't like competition, and that's not what that's not the point I'm making. The point I don't want to get back into it because I don't think people are understanding.
Well, hey guys, we all know each other. We know that we don't fundamentally disagree on this. I think it's getting really technical here, and probably none of us has enough information to know the answer to the question.
Oh, I know for a fact I don't have enough information. I have a problem when Amnon can't do it with funding from the town of Raleigh, but because Greenlight was in before the door, now they can go to the next town over and say, "Hey, we'll come to you. Just give us some money."
Yeah, well, I don't. That's a good question. I don't think that's what they're trying to do, but that's where I think that this Slashdot article is probably very incomplete.
And that was where my initial question was: where is the limit?
But Nick, you forget one big thing. If Greenlight was successful in getting the FCC to intervene, that doesn't mean that Greenlight can do it and Amnon cannot, because at that point anybody can do it. Isn't that the way?
And if that ruling comes down, then my argument is totally invalid. But
right, because that's how it works, Mike. Right?
Well, it could potentially work like that, right?
Well, I'm not sure that's how what works.
I mean, if the FCC tells North Carolina you cannot force Greenlight from not expanding, your law.
You cannot prevent them from expanding, and that is that we, the federal government, are going to trump the state government.
Right.
We're going to say that your law cannot be enforced against them and prevent them from expanding.
Right, and at that point, if I wanted to do it, I can do, and Raleigh wants to get with me too, They can, because there's already a precedence.
Well, I think you're saying is, if this lawsuit is successful and the North Carolina statute is found to be unenforceable,
Right.
does that open the door for other municipalities to
Right.
fund startups? And I would say yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, then my point is totally invalid at that.
Yeah, it's not going to be just for Greenlight. No. Greenlight is doing something that opens the door for everybody else. Yeah. We'll see.
And Chattanooga, Tennessee, which gives it interstate applicability.
Right. And then my argument is totally invalid.
Well, it depends. We don't know how it's going to unfold.
We don't. Yeah, we don't
no,
know.
and if that is the case, then my argument is totally invalid. If Amnon is allowed to do whatever to start one up with Raleigh, then it's invalid. But if not, and Wilson gets this special pass, then no, I'm not on board for that.
No, I wouldn't either.
To keep on the political thing a little bit, we vote for city government and state government and county government to act on our behalf and to make the area more competitive, make more money, because if they make a lot of money, we pay less taxes maybe. The biggest thing today for municipalities, for government, is to bring new business into an area, because that's how you make money. It's not by bringing the Craig family into Cary, North Carolina. It's for being able to bring Dell into North Carolina. And one of the biggest one of the most important utilities these days is not electricity or water, it's internet. And if you don't have that gigabit network, companies are going to go somewhere else. So it is in the interest of a city to say, oh, okay, now here's a company that's willing to do it. They want us to help them to get it started. We should invest in that, because that's going to pay us 10 and 100 times over when we can bring in businesses that need that service. And it sounds a lot simpler than it may be, but that's what it is.
Think like that, and that's not the case. I said you're assuming that they think like that, and that's not the case.
Well, I hope that's the way they think. And it seems like you read that a lot of municipalities, a lot of localities, that's what they go. That's why they do it. And let me tell you something. If today, and this is my opinion, if today North Carolina said, you know what, we are striking down that law. We didn't know what we were doing. And at that point, Google says, okay, we're coming to Raleigh. It's going to take us a year, but you're going to have gigabit. You know what? Time Warner and AT&T suddenly have high speed, real high speed, at a competitive price, because they want to be there first.
See, unfortunately, with Time Warner, I don't believe that would be the case.
That's how it was in Kansas City.
But
people got emails. They told them, oh, okay, well, we raised your price, and we lowered your price and we raised your speed.
So you think 100?
And that's why it happened, because Google Fiber was there. Now they did that.
Do you think 100 megabytes is better than a gigabit?
Yes, it is better. Anything faster than 30 by 5 is better. If it's 40 by 10, it's better.
Correct. So you would rather have the 100 megabits over the gigabit?
I would rather, I will get whatever they can give me. And if at this point, Time Warner is saying, here's 100 megabits, I will take it.
Even if there's gigabit?
Even if it's what?
I said even if there is gigabit.
I don't know that even if there is, because I'm talking about the fact that there isn't yet. If there is, I may get it if I can afford it, and if I need it, sure. But I'm talking about right now the threat of such a thing is gigabit is going to drive the current active operating ISPs like Time Warner and AT&T to offer you something more just so you will stay with them.
I disagree. Look, did you hear what Andrew said when he was in here?
What did he say?
He said that the best speed he can get from Time Warner is 30 down, 5 up.
I understand.
He's getting but if there's BIOS is killing them. BIOS is literally killing them there.
I
Because
understand.
Why would you pay for Time Warner if you could get 3, 4, 5 times the speed with FiOS? And they don't seem to be any trying to update their speeds to compete at all. I don't think they care.
All right, that's enough of that.
Well,
here's something that's interesting.
Y'all give me a break on the malware again.
Sure.
I went, Mike, to the settings, and that enable disable section was grayed out, and no matter what I checked or unchecked, I couldn't change anything over there. And so I just removed the anti-malware program, restarted the computer, went up and downloaded it new. And when I started the new version, it came back exactly like the one I had before. So they have it flagged up there some way so that I can't even replace that trial version that has expired.
Well, there is a setting to do it because I've done it.
yes. Did you uninstall and reinstall?
Yep.
Yeah.
I did it many a times. I don't know what's wrong on that.
We'll figure it out. Malware bytes. How disable real.
It may be a little bit more involved. You may have to go through that's right. You have to go through the registry and remove any.
No, I don't think
Yes, Mike. Yes.
No.
Now I remember. You have to go through the registry and take out any remnants of malware bytes, because otherwise people will just every month will reinstall and reinstall and reinstall.
Who's the caller?
They keep nobody.
What?
What's the name? Who's calling in? What's your name?
That's my
Bill.
Bill. Okay. If you go into the settings and then go to advanced settings.
All right, I'm doing that right now, and it's grayed out. Mine is
Everything
grayed
in
out.
advanced settings is grayed out.
Yep. See, it looks like when the trial version expired, they made it so I couldn't change and get it free.
right.
So is start malware bytes, anti-malware with Windows checked?
Yeah.
All right, because that's where the problem is.
Well, I can't uncheck it apparently.
Well, if you don't want to start it automatically, all you have to do is go to msconfig and uncheck it.
Okay.
It says will be changed based 2 reasons compatibility.
Mike,
Now,
I'm telling you, I went through this. You have to take. They are keeping a record somewhere in the registry that this was already done.
Uh-huh.
I understand them, none.
And
but I'm
and
telling
going
you that I have undone it before.
and whenever somebody comes in with this thing, I tell them that in the future to make sure that when they update, not to click on that trial.
I don't remember, but I clicked on
I'm-
it anyway.
I'm wondering-
But it probably did. Huh?
I have an old version that you can probably install that does not have that, and then, but I don't know what would happen when you update it.
No, I would not recommend installing an old version. It's not going to get the proper. It's probably not going to get the proper.
That's got nothing to do with that.
So you don't think on their server they're flagging older versions and not letting them get the updates?
That is nothing. I mean, when I do a new one right now, in many cases, when I'm for a machine that's infected, I don't go on the internet to get the new one. I install the one that I have on my flash disk, which is about a year old. And when you install it and then you run it, right away it comes and says, database is 300 and some days old. Do you want to update? And then I connect the internet, tell it to update. Once it's done, I disconnect. And at that point, I have the new one just so I don't stay on the internet too long, because the trick with all these viruses is while you're on the net, they wreak havoc and they invite their cousins to come in. So you...
Bill. Earth to Bill.
What do you find? Yeah, Bill is here.
Do you have a tab in there that says account settings or my account?
You mean running across the top? I've got dashboard, scan, settings, history, and activate and buy premium. That's the one. That's the
my
top.
Account, Mike. I don't think there is a my account on Malwarebytes.
In February 2014, it said that if you wish to revert to the free version, you may do so at any time by visiting the My Account tab and simply using the deactivate button. If using the trial, you'll find an end free trial link in the dashboard in the real-time section near the bottom. Maybe that's it.
Check in free trial. Is that what they're saying?
Yes, check in free trial. Says under dashboard.
I did, and up at the top of the headline that was saying anti-malware now says anti-malware free.
Okay, then that should fix your problem when you reboot.
Okay.
Are you saying you did change something there?
I checked what down there in the real-time protection. It said end free trial, or whatever it was.
That is
and
correct.
I checked that.
Did you just do it?
Just as we were speaking, yes.
Okay.
That should solve it.
Okay.
We'd love to know
you may
if it
not.
does,
You may not even have to reboot.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I will. I'll
Try
reboot anyway and just
try
see it,
rec-
and I'll let you know.
Run.
Yeah,
run.
good to know.
Just start.
Incidentally.
Bill, just go ahead and start Malwarebytes now.
Oh.
And it should not tell you that it expired. If that worked.
That's true. And while he's doing that,
Well,
you may
it came
find
back and
interesting.
said the license is expired, but it still says Malwarebytes free at the top.
Correct. That's what you want.
So I don't know what the license is for. But anyway, we'll assume that I'm running the free part and it does what we want.
Okay.
Well, again, let us know, because it's confusing, but it is solvable.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
Good
Take
luck.
care, Bill.
All right. Oh, Amnon.
Yes.
On the the thing on the right of the screen where the messages come in, I sign in with the name that I chose a long time ago, Bill and Raleigh. And
what are we talking about on the right
I'm
side?
talking about your screen for
the
Computers
chat.
2K Now.
For the chat?
The one on the right says Computers 2K Now, and it has the back and forth stuff that people have typed in.
Yeah, the
instead of
chat.
calling in. Yeah.
The chat has nothing to do. I mean, it does not remember you. One day you can log in as Bill. The next day you can log in as Julie. It does not remember anything. There is no sign up that will remember you from week to week. Now, if you at the beginning of the show signed up as Bill and then you disconnected or you rebooted, Bill is still active. So at that point, that's why you will see some of them have Bill 1.
Yeah,
It will not allow you to come in as the same name.
All
So
right. Well, I tried to put the name in, and it says that I can't.
right. So just add the number 1 at the end of it.
Oh, okay.
And that will allow you in.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Bill. Now, what I wanted to tell you is that, and you can take this with whatever grain of salt you want to take it with, but I am on the North Carolina State Board of Elections website
Yeah.
looking at the political committee disclosure report for the sponsor of the Time Warner anti-competition bill that we talk about here that prevents municipalities from investing in broadband startups.
Okay.
Her name is Marilyn Avila, and she's
Right.
been in office for quite a while. This is her report period from January 1st, 2014 to April 19th, 2014. And interestingly enough, she has, for the year, at least as of that date, received a total of, I'm scrambling here.
Oodles and oodles.
Huh?
Oodles and oodles of.
No, actually, she doesn't get very much money at all. It looks like, I don't know what the total is, but she has received a grand total of this period, during this period, of $17,600 in contributions. Of that, $2,500 is from Time Warner.
Mm-hmm.
That's a significant percentage.
Yep.
She has received a total of $5,000 to date from Time Warner.
Yep.
Now, I'm not suggesting there's anything wrong with it. This is all perfectly legal. Perfectly legal. And she has an absolute right to accept it. And if I were
Absolutely.
in her position, I'd take it too.
Absolutely.
Not a complaint. But all I'm saying is that how do we fix this problem? I mean, if you read the comments in that Slashdot article, you've got a bunch of kooks in there who are talking about government is wonderful, the government needs to do everything. But the reality is they only say that when they agree with what the government is advocating, which unfortunately too many people do. But when the government disagrees with you, now they're a bunch of dogs and whores and all that stuff. But the reality is that the way you have to deal with the government's attitude on these things is not by going down there and getting in their doorways. My wife works down there. It's not going down there and getting in the doorway, rioting and protesting and all that. Find out who you support, find out who agrees with you, and get out and get them elected.
Right.
Going forward, I don't know where this is going to end up because, like our mayor of Cary, North Carolina, I can't think of anything that he and I agree on. I mean, we could not be more different. But he's a techie, and to his credit, he is out working to get a higher internet bandwidth for Cary.
Right.
On that issue, I support him. I'd never vote for him, but I support him.
Right, and he's got to fight the same battle that Greenlight is fighting right now.
Yeah, well, I suspect the way it works now is that they're going to sit back and let Greenlight fight it so they don't have to spend the money.
Absolutely, and that's the way it should be done. Never mind, just let them pay the attorneys.
Yeah.
No need to pay more attorneys.
Paid, all is good.
Anyway.
An expert.
What'd you say, Nick?
Nothing.
Oh.
Joe DeMaxwell. Never mind.
What was that? I'm sorry.
No.
Here's another story here. Bromium Labs analyzed public vulnerabilities and exploits from the first 6 months of 2014. The research determined that Internet Explorer vulnerabilities have increased more than 100% since 2013, bypassing Java and Flash vulnerabilities. Web browsers have always been a favorite avenue of attack, but we're now seeing that hackers are not only getting better at attacking Internet Explorer, they are doing it more frequently. And I don't know, it seems to me that at this point, Internet Explorer should be even less vulnerable. I was surprised to read this. I mean, there can only be so many vulnerabilities in a piece of software. I mean, yeah, the number can be astronomical, but there can only be so many. And once you fix them, hey, it should be okay, no?
I have no clue. I have no clue what they're doing.
No. Here is something for you, Mike. Tell us what you think, your take on this. While several U.S. judges have refused overly broad warrants that sought to grant police access to a suspect's complete Gmail account, a federal judge in New York State okayed such an order this week. He said that this type was no more invasive than the long-established practice of granting a warrant to copy and search the entire content of a hard drive, and that alternatives, like asking Google employees to locate messages based on narrowly tailored criteria, risk excluding information that trained investigators could locate. So it sounds like they're saying that this judge was saying, what's the difference between me giving a warrant, signing a warrant that you can search the entire hard drive of somebody's computer, or searching their entire Gmail account?
Well, I'm really skeptical about news reports about legal issues because most reporters really don't get it. They don't have a clue what they're talking about. So I'm confident they've gotten part of that report wrong. But to assume it at face value, the first question I would ask is, what is the expectation of privacy with regard to your local hard drive versus your Gmail account? You've already given Gmail, a third party with whom you have no official relationship, permission to scan your email. If you're going to give it to, I have two thoughts. If you're going to give it to Gmail, how much further of a stretch is it to give it to the government or anybody else? I mean, who's Google? They're not. You don't have a confidential relationship with them. They have no obligation to maintain the confidentiality of your Gmail account. You've given them permission to scan your Gmail for keywords that allow them to do targeted advertising towards you. So right. I don't see the same expectation of privacy, do you?
No.
Now, having said that, your hard drive is something that theoretically is in your home. Your home is your castle, it used to be, and you have an expectation that someone is not going to come in and go through your hard drive and find your banking information and your porn or whatever you have on it. But that being said, and I'm not saying this sarcastically, I mean this sincerely, and Brian Aldridge knows exactly what I'm talking about when I say this. Considering the current operation of the NSA with regard to our data, what difference does any of this make?
Yep. Does it really matter?
Well, yeah, I mean, there are major issues. I mean, we now have gotten to the point that the NSA, we use it as a joke. But the reality is, let's suppose, if you're up for a hypothetical, let's just play with this just a minute. And I'll say this, not really having thought it through that much, but let's think about this just a minute. Let's suppose, Amnon, that you operate your own mail server, you have highly secure email, you use secure email to send and receive, you don't send anything in open, clear text, whatever. I don't understand all the security issues. Let's suppose you do everything right.
Right.
You find out that you actually have a problem with the federal government. I don't know, IRS.
Yeah.
National Security, TSA. I don't know. You have a legitimate issue that you, as a citizen of this country, have the right to address with the government.
Right.
You deal with your attorney via email on this issue. If we are to believe what we are told, the NSA, the federal government, has access to everything that goes on between you and your attorney through email.
Mm-hmm. That's bad.
Well, if it's true.
Yeah, if it's right.
I don't know. I don't know if it's true. We joke about it being true. I don't know if it's true. But let's assume that it is for the sake of argument. Who is to say that the federal government is to be trusted with that information? That is, if you say, we do not need to tip the government on this information that we have, this hole in their system that has caused me this injury or damage, because if they find out about it, they will plug that hole before trial and we will have trouble winning our case. What if the federal government within itself distributes that confidential information and solves the problem? How do you win against the government, assuming that your complaint is legitimate and that you have indeed been damaged when you should not have been damaged?
Good point.
Have you thought about that? I mean,
No, good point.
break it down this way. Let's suppose that you're suing me, and every email you send to your attorney, I get to read. That's going to seriously jeopardize your ability to win your case, because I'm going to find out where your vulnerability is and what it is questions you don't want me to ask when we get to the courtroom.
Very good.
I don't know that this is a problem. There may not be an issue here. Everything may be, 98% of what you hear is either wrong or blown completely out of proportion. A lot of ignorant people make a lot of legitimate sounding comments, and I'm probably as guilty of it as anyone, because I echo things based on what I've heard or read. But if the problem is as bad as it says it is, how do you win against the government even whenever you should win?
Okay. Yeah. No. I understand what you're saying.
You got to vote. You got it. People say, Mike, why are you so consumed with politics? And I'd say because it matters.
Yeah.
I also see here that on December 18th, 2013, that Time Warner donated $2,000 to Phil Berger, who is the pro tem of the Senate in North Carolina.
To make sure that they keep on blocking this, huh? Nick!
I didn't say that.
I'm saying that.
I don't know. I mean,
Hey,
somebody, look, it costs a lot of money to run for office and to get elected. It's got to come from somewhere. This is all legal.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's not, that it's illegal.
So,
hey, Nick.
What's going on, Emma?
What happened with Twitch this week?
What?
What happened with Twitch this week?
Okay. I'm sorry. I was working on something, and I really didn't hear what you said.
pay attention.
I'm sorry. I'm working on some graphics.
Well, we don't want to bore you.
Why? Making graphics is boring.
Answer the question.
Okay, so Twitch TV, which is a subsidiary of Justin TV, is allegedly getting purchased by Google and will most likely be incorporated into its YouTube services within the upcoming months and probably a year or so.
And Twitch is? What is Twitch?
Twitch is a sister company of Justin TV, a CDN.
They sell dresses and shoes. That's what they do.
No, I said they're a subsidiary CDN of Justin.
A lot of people don't know what that means.
Okay, so they're just like Justin TV for gamers. There you go.
They are a CDN, and they are mainly for gamers, right? They are only for gamers.
Distribution network, yes.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
And there are a lot.
Not mostly, only for gaming. If
only
not
for
gaming
gamers.
stuff,
Okay.
You are not allowed to use their service.
So if I wanted to get an account on Twitch today,
you'd have to have some type of gaming. You have to be mostly gaming.
Okay.
Technology, you're on the border, but like you have to be gaming or technology.
Oh, look what Donovan is saying.
What is Donovan saying?
They flipped the corporate structure around. Justin is actually a sub of Twitch Media.
Yeah, that makes sense. Twitch is the moneymaker. Justin is not. At one point, Justin was the moneymaker. Or maybe not, but...
maybe they started just for gamers, and then they say, oh, we can do something...
Well, no, Justin was originally a regular CDN for everybody, and then it was overconsumed with just gamers, so they launched Twitch, and then now Twitch has been sold to Google. Or hasn't been confirmed by either of the companies yet, but they've been sold to Google.
So since it was announced some time ago that Google is actually buying...
Yeah, and this has been a rumor for a while, let me make that clear. This was rumored, probably a few months ago now, but it's...
But they must be two different entities then.
Well,
Because
not if what Donovan was saying, which makes more sense, then
Right.
they're not. If Justin is a sub of Twitch now, which makes more sense now that I think about it, then they would technically be buying Justin as well, because all of
Yeah.
Justin's servers are now Twitch servers, and they've been like that for a while now. They've been rolling all their infrastructure into
Yeah.
to Justin.
Okay. And you think that that's going to actually be a bad thing?
Oh, it's going to kill Twitch, without a doubt. It's fine, which is fine. But yeah, no, it will definitely kill it.
Brent, I don't know who keeps up with Comic-Con on. Yeah, I don't know. Nick, do you? If anybody, would be you.
I mean,
No.
what I don't know what he means by keeping up with it.
Well, I mean, are you keeping up with what's happening in Comic-Con?
Yeah, I mean, there's some news out of it.
Well,
Nothing.
anything cool? He's asking. I don't know.
Not really. I don't think Comic-Con is.
I
As
saw
big as it used-
Chewie on TV.
Yeah, for whatever reason, the news loves Comic-Con, which I find really weird. I think they don't care about anything else that's going on in gaming. So why I don't know why they care about that. It actually kind of pisses me off a little bit. When we're not killing people because we play video games, we're dressing up as a bunch of idiots running.
Yeah,
around
you're killers.
San Diego.
You're the ones that create all the problems.
Correct. I kill people because I play video games.
Here's another interesting story here. Mike, you may be interested in that too. Google and IEEE and a few other sponsors like Cree and Rome is offering a 1 million prize to the team which can design and build a kilowatt scale power inverter with the highest power density, at least 50 watts per cubic inch. Going from cooler sized to tablet sized, they say, would make a whole lot of things better, and the prize is reserved for the best performing entrant. Our testing philosophy is not to look inside the box. You provide us with a box that has 5 wires coming out of it, 2 DC input, 2 AC outputs, and a grounding connection, and we only monitor what goes into and comes out of those wires, along with the temperature of the outside of your box. Over the course of 100 hours of testing, the inverter will be operating in an islanded mode that is not tied to or synced to an external grid. The load will be dynamically changing throughout the course of the testing, similar to what you may expect to see in a residential setting. The application must be filled out in English, but any serious applicants can sign up regardless of approach suggested or team background. Registration runs through September. So they're trying to come up with a small inverter, a new type of inverter.
Right.
That's interesting.
That's a good thing. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a wonderful thing. They, I mean, that's an ongoing challenge. As soon as that one's complete and they give $1 million, they'll probably come back with another contest to do it again, this time to make it even smaller, because the power sources are major limitations on portable devices, as we all know. And more efficient we can make portable power sources, such as an inverter to operate off of a battery to provide other power, then that enables more technologies. I mean, for all sorts of things, for vehicles, for spaceships, whatever.
Right. And for those of you into SSDs, Intel just launched their new SSD 2500 Pro Series solid-state drive. The follow-up to last year's SSD 1500 Pro Series, which targets corporate and small business clients. The drive shares much of its DNA with some of Intel's consumer class drives, but the Pro Series cranks things up a few notches with support for advanced security and management features, low power states, and an extended management toolset. in terms of performance, the Intel SSD 2500 Pro isn't class leading in light of many enthusiast class drives, but it's no slouch either. Intel differentiated the 2500 Pro series by adding support for vPro remote management and hardware-based self-encryption. The 2500 Pro series supports TCG, Trusted Computing Group, Opal 2.0 feature, and is Microsoft eDrive capable as well. Intel also offers an administration tool for easy management of the drive. With the Intel administration tool, users can reset the PSID, physical presence security ID, though the content of the drive will be wiped. Sequential reads are rated up to 540 megabytes a second. Sequential writes at up to 480 megabytes a second, with 45K to 80K random read and writes I/O per second. This, they didn't talk about the size of the drives, but apparently, I guess they have different sizes. But it's self-encrypting.
That's pretty cool.
Yes. No prices either.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that things are going to get more exciting as time goes on, but it's been that way for a long time.
Yeah.
So,
Apple thrilled investors earlier this week when they revealed that they had sold 13 million iPads to schools and claimed 85% of educational tablet market. But that wasn't the whole story.
no kidding.
It turns out that Apple has only sold 5 million iPads to schools since February 2013, or an average of less than 1 million tablets a quarter over 6 quarters. It turns out that instead of buying iPads, pay attention, Nick.
I know.
Schools are buying Chromebooks. Google reported that 1 million Chromebooks were sold to school last quarter, well over half of the 1.8 million units sold in the second quarter.
Bum, ba, bum.
With Android tablets getting better, Apple is losing market share in the consumer tablet market, and now it looks Apple is also losing the educational market to Google.
Here's the problem. I think I can talk about this intelligently.
Let me just finish it. It says that their
okay,
analysts are predicting 5 million Chromebooks will be sold by the end of the year.
Okay.
How many of those will be sold to schools, do you think? So, yeah, I know you have one.
So I have one, and I'm also in school.
Yeah.
And I've got I think I've got some. Oh, I'm off camera. I think I've got some insight on this.
Yep.
So, the biggest problem with using tablets, as you probably know if you have one, is the typing on it is horrendous. It doesn't match. Typing on a screen doesn't match up to
Keyboard.
typing on a keyboard. It's no matter what. Even the Bluetooth keyboards, it's not the same. It's still not the same. I'm sorry. Those little chiclet keyboards, like the silicone keyboards, it doesn't match up. They're not the same. And the Chromebook, the keyboard isn't great. It's obviously not a great keyboard, but it sure beats out any keyboard that comes with an iPad or that you can buy as an accessory for the iPad because it's attached to the device. Mm-hmm. And there's actually a backbone behind it. There's stuff under the keyboard so that when you're pressing down, you're not touching the table, you're touching the keyboards, and you can feel a response on the keys. And I honestly believe that's why that the Chromebooks are selling over the iPads. They're great for drawing and doing stuff like that, but when it comes to actually doing schoolwork that involves typing, I'm sorry, but the iPad doesn't work. It's not practical.
Well, there's one other aspect too, because I only heard about this story tangentially, so my numbers and location, but the message is there, and that is that at least one school system bought all iPads for their students, the idea being that all of the books would be on the iPad instead of them having to buy books. They're going to save all this money per year. And at the end of the first year, 40% of the iPads were either lost, stolen, or damaged.
Yeah. It's a problem.
40%.
So a lot of what Apple is saying is just to wow their investors.
Liars.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about that.
To a point. To a point.
I don't know about that. I did see a little interesting test this week where, and I don't remember who did it, but someone bought a little Casio $20 watch, put an Apple logo on it, and went out on the streets and said, "Have you seen the new Apple Watch?" And they looked at it and they said, "Yeah, here's the new Apple Watch. And not only does it keep time, it also tells you the date." Wow, that's a great feature. Are you going to buy one? If it has an Apple logo on it, I'm buying it. Man, this is great. This is the way watches should be.
Fact.
Yeah.
So Sean was saying that at his
Yeah,
school in
yeah,
California,
yeah.
they did all of their state testing using Chromebooks. I mean, I've never used a Chromebook, and I've only heard about it based on what Bruce has talked about and what Nick has talked about. And in both cases, I think it's fair to say that both guys had some adjusting to do to get used to it. But once they did, they felt like it was an excellent investment.
Yeah, I mean, I'm running Linux on mine, which I guess kind of defeats the purpose because I need to run a Windows application. But
What Windows application do you need to run?
GR Level 3, which is a weather radar software when I'm on the go.
But that's highly specialized. Not everyone's going to want to run that.
Oh, plus Skype. There's no Skype on the Chromebook, so.
Yeah, that's bad. But does it have enough horsepower to run it anyway?
To run Linux or
What?
Skype?
Wait, what do you
No
mean there's
Skype.
no Skype on Chromebooks?
There's no Skype.
I thought that's how Bruce used to connect to us from the...
He was running Linux.
Oh, okay.
The Chromebook comes with Chrome OS.
Yeah, which is great. But if you need to run Skype or any other software, it's not great.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's definitely it's definitely usable. It's only recently that I've started using the Linux part of it. For the most part, I always used Chrome OS, and then most recently when I really needed to get working on some stuff on the go, that's when I had to go with Linux.
Dan is saying he is on his third iPad, and he can say that he is only marginally impressed. Why are you on the third one already if you're not impressed, Dan?
Well, but I don't know what his answer is going to be, but I would suggest that there's nothing that's any more impressive.
Oh, for the tablet, the iPad's got it.
No question. I mean, it's an excellent device if it does what you need it to do. If you try to use it for something for which it is not intended, then it's probably not impressive.
The Android tablets are crap.
What Dan's seemed like a good. I mean, they're expensive. They're very expensive. No question about it.
Yeah, that's why the Chromebook is so successful, I guess, because the price is right.
And it has the keyboard.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. The thing is, the Apple keyboard is, I want to say, like $50. The Click keyboard or whatever it is. So the school's got to buy those, and then they got to keep track of those and keep those charged. My school also has these Dell tablet computers that run Windows 8, and those things are horrendous. What a waste of money. Ugh, they're horrible. So they're so top heavy they fall over because the screen's got all the processor and stuff in it, and now it's bad.
All right.
I'm looking at this donations from Time Warner to politicians, and if you find the right, I posted the link and I downloaded the information as an Excel spreadsheet, opened it in whatever the Google Apps spreadsheet application is. I don't know what it's called. Sheets or spreadsheets or sheets or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then did a sort based on the amount donated during that period of time. And it's really interesting to see where they're donating money, and it's bipartisan. It's both sides of the fence. I mean, they're definitely supporting the political process in this state. It's interesting to see who gets the big bucks and who only gets little token payments. I wonder what that translates into. Either they're a hopeless case or they feel like they're already in their pocket. But the only reason I post this and comment on it is that if you want to change the political aspect, you've got to get involved in the process. And if you want your voice heard, you're going to have to put some money where your mouth is, because politics survives on money. That's a bipartisan statement. It goes both ways. You can't buy advertising to tell people why you're the best thing since sliced bread unless you have money. You got to have money. And if you think that you can go to your politician and say, I'm a taxpayer, I deserve to be heard, and think that you're going to have a louder voice than someone who donates $5,000, then you're mistaken.
Does it say anything about Google giving money to our legislator?
I haven't searched for that.
That would be interesting, because Google can definitely outspend Time Warner.
Well, on a regionalized basis, I don't know.
Time Warner Cable.
Yeah. They
while you're doing this, here's a story that I didn't get to last week, but it's important. In '98, the U.S. Congress passed a law that temporarily banned all taxes imposed by federal, state, and local governments on Internet access and Internet-only services. A ban that has been faithfully renewed every year since. Now, the U.S. House has passed a permanent version of the ban, which also applies to several states that had passed Internet taxes before '98 and were grandfathered in under the temporary law. The Senate must pass this bill as well by November 1st, or the temporary ban will lapse. So far, they kept on renewing it and renewing it. That's going to be interesting here, because there were some states that actually taxed it, and they're trying to apply it to them too. Say, no, you can't get any more taxes from that. That's one of the reasons I see that may break it. Right, Mike? Once it's there.
I didn't follow everything you said because I'm reading something else.
Oh, okay. That's all right.
I'm trying to understand what I'm reading here. I did a search on Google.
Yeah.
Apparently, Google has not been very active, at least on the search that I did. I can't find where Google has donated. I can't find that they've donated any money to candidates, except that they donated $4,000 to the candidate committee for Roy Cooper for Attorney General, although he's running for governor, is what I understand. Now that's interesting. That's really interesting. I'm going to be keeping an eye on that. I'm curious how they decided to pick Roy Cooper for Attorney General. Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not even speculating. I don't know.
You know, I never back in the days when that bill about not allowing municipalities in was going on, I never understood why Google was not out there in force educating people.
Because they probably have other battles they can fight with a lot less work. This is really interesting with Google. It's called Google Inc. NetPack. And they had a 2014 disclosure. If I'm reading it all, they started their PAC on 1/1/2014 and did a report ending 1/7/14, and then they did a certificate to close the committee. I don't know finance law, so I don't know what I'm looking at here, but there's something here that I really don't understand. I certify that the above-mentioned committee intends to close and cease existence. So I guess in looking at it, with no information at all, it looks like they created the committee, made a donation, and then closed the committee. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. But we will be watching. Status pending close. Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I know I have a Google Plus account. I don't really do anything with it. But here's something. It says when Google Plus launched, it received criticism across the internet for requiring that users register with their real names. Now, Google has finally relented and removed all restrictions on what usernames people are allowed to use. The company said, we know you've been calling for this change for a while. We know that our names policy has been unclear, and this has led to some unnecessarily difficult experiences for some of our users. For this, we apologize, and we hope that today's change is a step toward making Google Plus the welcoming and inclusive place that we want it to be. So before you couldn't sign up to Google Plus with the handle? Is that what it means?
Correct. It would terminate your account.
I don't remember reading that it was a problem.
Oh, yeah, they'd terminate you in a heartbeat and not even tell you why.
Huh.
It was a big deal because you have a lot of people, particularly these Hollyweird types, who don't use their real names. Legally, they couldn't sign up with their stage name.
Well, even bigger than that, businesses wanted to create Google Plus profiles, and you couldn't do that if you're, Craig Digital Designs. You have to be Nick Craig, and then have your sub profile be Craig Digital Designs. It was a big issue, and I think it turned a lot of people off to their service.
Very interesting.
Yes.
Here's another thing for those of us with Chromecasts. Dan Petro, a security analyst for the Bishop Fox IT consulting firm, built a proof of concept device that's able to hack into any Google Chromecasts nearby to project Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up, or any other video a prankster might choose. The Rickmote, which is built on top of the $35 Raspberry Pi single board computer, finds a local Chromecast device, boots it off the network, and then takes over the screen with multimedia of one's choosing. But it gets worse for the victims. If the hacker leaves the range of the device, there is no way to regain control of the Chromecast. Unfortunately for Google, this is a rather serious issue with a Chromecast device that's not too easy to fix, as the configuration process is an essential part of a Chromecast experience. So, in other words, it will brick it, right? That's what they mean.
Potentially. Yeah.
That's kind of bad.
It is pretty bad.
Now, I don't know about how they do it or what. I mean, we have one here that we use and it works great.
Chromecast they're probably doing something with so with the Chromecast, if you're connected to the Chromecast,
yeah,
you can share stuff to it. So they're sharing this. It's called a virus. It's not really a virus, but they're sharing this. I don't even know what it's called, virus to it, and taking control of it. That's the benefit of the Chromecast, is that you can share stuff to it. You just throw it to the TV and say, all right, there you go. The TV handle this. And that's how it works.
My question is, does Google do anything over the air to update the Chromecast to fix problems or anything, or it's the way it was the day we bought it?
No, I'm pretty sure they're doing updates, but I don't use mine, so I have not a clue. Not a clue.
Well,
Brian says they do send updates. I've fallen behind on the Chromecast. It's kind of disappointed me, so I haven't really used it much. I prefer the Roku.
I wonder if they can work a password for setting it up or for doing.
The only problem is if they set a password every time you share something, you're gonna have to put in a password. Which I don't know about you, but I really don't want to do that.
Yeah.
It's a weird situation there.
True. Well, that's kind of scary that somebody can come outside your house and.
Well, yeah, you have to be close enough to it to.
Yeah. In apartments, it's great. I mean, if you know that your neighbor is right over the other side of the wall, can be really, really bad.
It could be.
All right. Let's see. We have a few more minutes. The French city of Toulouse saved 1 million euros by migrating all its desktops from Microsoft Office to LibreOffice. This project was rooted in a global digital policy which positions free software as a driver of local economic development and employment. Former IT policymaker Erwin Montehuber said software licenses for productivity suites cost Toulouse 1.8 million euros every 3 years. Migration cost us about 800,000 euros, due partly to some developments. 1 million euros has actually been saved in the first 3 years, and it is a compelling proof in the actual context of local public finance. France has a high value in free software at the international level. Every decision maker should know this. I have not used LibreOffice, and I'm wondering how close or how compatible it is with Office, because most of the world still use Office.
LibreOffice is very good. So it's big on Linux.
Is it okay here? Like Brian says, it's more like OpenOffice.
It is. It's very similar.
So why would people go with LibreOffice instead of OpenOffice?
Maybe somebody in their board or
let's see
whatever
that.
liked it. I'm not sure.
Let's see if Brian has experience with both of them. It'll be interesting to know. I think Brian needs the link for the hangout next week. Oh, I see. So it's the same. They just split and created something else.
One comment I was going to throw in here too. A couple of things in chat. I was away from chat for a while, so I don't mean to be as disconnected as I am. But John was talking about messages on point with regard to Google Plus names. I posted a question in Google Plus about whether we should care if people use their real names, because at one point in time it was a violation of terms of service to use a false name under Google Plus. And you'd have thought I was calling the Pope a communist or something, because people got all upset. And why should we worry about such things? And all I did was ask the question, because the group operates based on what the group wants, not just what the moderators want. And the bottom line was they didn't care what name people used. However, unlike Google Plus, LinkedIn does have a strict policy that you can only use your name. You cannot use an assumed name or an abbreviation for or like a single letter for your last name on LinkedIn. So the group that I assist with moderating there, if you apply to be a member and you don't use your real name, you don't get in. Because I prefer that you use your real name if you're going to be in there. I like to know who I'm talking with. Like when Bill called in, it's no big deal, but who am I talking with? and if you don't want to use your real name, don't participate. Go somewhere else. There are plenty of forums where I participate anonymously. I'm not opposed with being anonymous, but Google, the LinkedIn forum, is a business forum where you're supposed to use your real name, and it's a minor requirement, and it's not for everybody. The other thing was that people are asking Nick about his mixer, which is the Behringer X2442. That's the same mixer that Amnon's using, by the way.
You can just see it.
Yep, Nick sure does have a nice setup now, and a lot more comfortable than he used to be for him.
He's an expert.
I'm an expert. It's a fact.
He's an expert on rearranging a room.
Well, his real claim to fame is math.
And I love to talk and be able to see the lights go up and down when I'm talking over there.
Obviously.
No more lights. No more lights for you.
No more lights.
As we wind it up here, let me suggest to anyone who has not tried, if you have a Google Gmail account and you have activated your Google Plus account, which is the same account in essence, go into Google Drive. I think they misnamed it. It doesn't make sense to me, but as part of Google Drive, which there is a 3x3 grid that if you move your mouse over it in Gmail, it says apps. You click on apps, and one of the, you may have to click more, but one of the available apps is a colorful triangle that says Drive. When you click on Drive, it brings up a screen that says New, My Drive, Incoming. Just click on New. And when you click on New, down at the bottom, it has New Google Docs, New Google Sheets, New Google Slides. Well, these are free online versions. Google Docs is the equivalent of Microsoft Word. Sheets is the equivalent of Microsoft Excel. Slides is the equivalent of Microsoft PowerPoint. Forms is probably Access. I'm thinking it's some sort of database thing. I don't know about that one. And Drawings is their drawing program. You haven't experimented. If you need these applications and you haven't experimented with them, you should do so. They are very helpful. They're very useful, particularly if you in fact have a license to Microsoft Office for one computer and you need to do some on another computer. You need to do things from time to time. These are good backup applications, but we've started using them regularly to share documents because, like on Google Docs, whenever we do a show with someone, I was on with Andrew Zarian. Was it Friday? Yeah, Friday. What's day? Sunday. Whew. Friday was on the IAIB Spotlight, and you go to gfqnetwork.com, go to their shows. IAIB Spotlight is the first link there. And what we did is put together a bunch of notes, things we wanted to talk about as a Google Doc. I shared it with Andrew, and then he was able to read and edit it at the same time that I was. And I would say most podcasters and internet broadcasters are using Google Docs in that way because it allows two or more people to simultaneously read and edit and comment on the document. I strongly recommend you take a look at it if you haven't done so.
Any of the interviews that you did for the IIB, everybody should, anybody who's interested in podcasting and audio and all should watch. Absolutely.
And Gary's
Good
talking
stuff.
about
Good stuff.
He's using the Dell Windows Pad with a pluggable interface. It was working perfectly. It's like having a Windows desktop machine with a 32 gigabyte pad. It's around $200.
I think that might be what my school has. Something similar to it.
I don't know much about these other. I think it's a little early for the Windows versions. I mean, I'm not a big Apple fan, but I do respect what they've done, and they own the pad market right now. And the others are going to play catch up and maybe even beat them at their game. But right now, I'm just not a big pad user. I like my Kindle Fire HD a lot. It's a great little device, and thanks to an application that Nick had me download a couple of days ago, it's going to get about 3 times the use it was getting before. So I really like that, and that's a pad based on the Android operating system.
What app is that you're downloading, or that
I
is
don't know,
getting?
you tell me.
What? Why should you?
I can't remember the name of it.
It's called Beyond Pod. It's in. Somebody echoing?
Not me.
Hello?
Hello.
I think it's Amnon.
Well, we're about done. Go ahead.
Okay. So the app is called Beyond Pod, and it's a Android application. I think it's the best podcatcher for Android, and I use it. I use it every night.
Yeah, it's
Listen to
very
podcasts.
And
It's free.
I did want to address one thing, and then we're over time. So, Movie Buff says he's interested in the Behringer X18. Be careful. Some of those Behringer mixers do not have post-fader aux sends on them. Make sure that whatever Behringer mixer you get, I'm not sure about the X18, it may be fine, but make sure that all of the aux sends are capable of doing post-fader send, because if you're going to end up doing Skype and SIP and other internet connections for audio, you'll be sorry if you don't have the ability to do post-fader sends for your mix minus. The X18 may be perfectly fine. I know that there's some of them that we recommend the 1204, but it's the X1204. The 1204, one of the aux sends is not capable of post-fader send. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can go to iBroadcastNetwork.org, which is the website for the IAIB. Go to the blog section. There are some articles there on how to interface Skype with your computer. And there's even, I think there's an article there I wrote on understanding aux sends on mixers. So if you're interested in it, give it a shot. Dan's asking, isn't Behringer's nomenclature FX? It's not just Behringer. A lot of mixer companies treat FX. That's a short representation of effects, FX, effects. And generally, effects are added post-fader. So you will often see a post-fader send as FX. But no, FX does not always mean that it's post-fader. And even if you have 2 auxiliary sends, typically only one of them is going to be labeled FX, even if both are capable of post-fader send. And is the X32 rack post-fader, F-A-D-E-R? The X32 can be configured to do about anything you want. It's digital, and everyone can be pre-fader or post-fader, as I understand it. So, yes.
I'm not sure if this is just my model, or if mine is the first model up that does it, but my aux 1 and 2 can be pre or post with a simple press of a button.
Correct. And how often have you used pre-fader?
I used it once, twice.
Right.
Used it twice when I was originally using aux sends for On the Radar. I would just turn my pot down and then click on
and
the
there is
button.
a reason that you could use pre-fader if you were doing. There are some opportunities you could do it with a radio show if you wanted to keep some things off the stream and all that, but most people have no need for it.
Yeah.
I would rather have post-fader and no pre-fader than I would rather have pre-fader and no post-fader. If you can do both, you have some options.
I like the option. Like if I clicked it right now, I'd have no clue what would happen. But
all right.
I always thought that the FX stood for effects.
It does. That's what I just said.
That the echoes and all that.
It does.
Yeah,
that's correct. But if you plug a plug into the effects output or the FX output on a mixer that has internal digital effects, most of them you disconnect the internal digital effects, which podcasters and broadcasters don't need anyway.
Okay, yeah. Is that what I'm doing here? I don't know.
Yep. When you plug into FX out, it disconnects all that crap that's in the upper right corner of your mixer.
That's why I can't do echo.
I can do it.
No, it's okay.
I messed around with it the other night, and I couldn't figure out how to turn it off, and I was unplugging cables.
Yeah, Brian, let's do some karaoke.
Yeah, Dan says that, as you know, Behringer goes to extensive measures not to respond to customer questions. Unfortunately, I totally agree with him. I think Behringer mixers, I recommend them. I like them. I think they're extraordinary value, but considering a lot of people who buy them need support from the company, Mackie has been more responsive. And in fact, I had a discussion with some high-level support guys at Mackie and told them that I recommended Behringer over Mackie because of the built-in USB output. And as soon as I started saying it, he said, I know. We hear it all the time. And he said, we actually have USB output in our Pro FX series. And I said, however, you know that there is a USB ground. I know. So they're aware of the problem.
I gotta say one thing. I bought mine from Musician's Friend, and the guys down there know the mixers.
Mm-hmm.
You remember in the early days, Mike, when I was just looking, we were talking to Guitar Center here.
Oh.
That was not something that you would call support.
Worst enemy.
But the guys at Musician Friends, they really know this. And you know who else knows a lot as far as support?
Nick Craig.
Is no, of course. No, when you buy something. B&H.
Yes and no.
Never bought anything from them.
Yeah, B&H is a wonderful company. I mean, they really carry some stuff that's unique and pro stuff. B&H Photo is their website. bhphoto.com, I think, is one of their websites. They are an excellent company in New York, probably 1-day shipping for anything that Nick would buy from them. That would be my theory. It's 2 days here. But they've just instituted recently a policy where they have free shipping on anything over $49. But there are also some low-priced items there that they give free shipping, such as replacement rubber bands for your shock mounts, things like that. They will often ship those for free as well. However, I will tell you that yesterday, as part of a discussion, we were looking at, keeping you awake, Nick?
Yep.
Is that we were...
You didn't hear my story, that's why.
Oh. But we were looking and noticed the pricing of the Electro-Voice 309A shock mount for the Electro-Voice RE20 and 27 microphones. I went to B&H Photo and as the first stop out of curiosity, and noticed that they wanted $172 just for the shock mount. And I said, wow, that thing's really gone up. But then I went to BSW USA, Broadcast Supply Worldwide, and they had it for $105 or $107. So you got to shop around there. And I suspect that if you sent an email or called B&H and said, what's your best price, they'd probably meet the 105 with no questions asked. So be smart.
Yeah. No, but I was talking about the support. I mean, they have people there just for support.
Well, Dan, I'm sorry we're just now getting to the good stuff.
The what?
Dan says, darn it, now that we're getting into some good stuff, the show's almost over.
Oh, well.
We'll try to get into some good stuff earlier in the show next week, Dan.
Yeah, you need to bring it up, Dan.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I got to run.
Yeah, me
All
too.
right.
All righty.
Okay, guys.
Bye-bye.
right.
Bye-bye for now.
Good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie, and Donna. Thank you, everybody, for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing, back up your hard drive, and update your virus scanner. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9, but you can always reach us at computers2know.com. While you're at it, like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel too. Tune in tomorrow at 11 for the Health In Show and all the other shows that we do tomorrow. Talk to you.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, Health In with Debbie Bruck, Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Lessons of Vietnam with NCVVI members, The Tanya Love Show, Reawaken Your Brilliance with Julie Seibert, and if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it at www.nissancommunications.com. Sponsored by Atomus.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters for professionals. That VidBlasterGuy.com, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.